Chapter 828. But very soon Peng Huanin's expression changed. When the 9 prefectures group charged into the mysterious realm's entrance of the mysterious realm of the mysterious realm, many of the corpse race changed their direction and rushed towards the entrance. Even the Silver Corpse commanders and Iron Corpse commanders that had been fighting with them all this time abandoned them and retreated in a hurry, rushing towards the door. The corpses had no idea what the 9 provinces team was up to, but Lu Yi had forced his way into the secret realm first, and now the 9 provinces team was charging in with such fanfare. They were clearly up to something. As such, they could not let them get away no matter what. Even with the Copper Corpse commander's death, the Silver Corpse commanders and Iron Corpse commanders dared not just sit by and watch. Stop them! Peng Huanin ordered in a hurry and tried to stop the 2 corpse commanders, but it was completely useless. The formations on the soaring dragon boats hummed, and a huge beam of light shot towards the 2 corpse commanders, who easily dodged it. With the return of the 2 corpse commanders and the corpses, the pressure on the Dao Palace's side plummeted. However, Peng Huanin's face was sunken. She would rather face more pressure on the Dao Palace than allow the 9 provinces team to run into trouble. However, at this moment, the Dao Palace and the cultivators of the stronghold could only rely on the defensive line formed by the 3 soaring dragon boats as a barrier. All they could do was stand their ground or retreat. Taking the initiative to attack was nothing but wishful thinking. Looking in the direction of the door, Peng Huanin secretly prayed that everything would go smoothly. She spat out a word coldly. Kill. There was not much they could do now. Killing more corpses was the best help they could provide to the 9 provinces team. Inside the secret realm, the team of 8 charged in foolishly and felt even greater pressure than before. This was because the number of corpses here was much greater than outside. Moreover, the corpses here had clearly received news from outside and were rushing out. When the 9 provinces team charged in, they were clashing head-on with the huge horde of corpses. Like an indestructible sharp blade, the team of 8 forcibly plowed a bloody path through the tide of zombies wherever they went. An extremely malicious and ferocious aura was awakening somewhere in the mystic realm. Even though it was far away, the sharp aura was like an ant that bit onto everyone's body. No matter who it was at this moment, their skin couldn't help but tighten as their expressions turned solemn. Previously, when the 8 of them worked together, they had easily killed the Bronze Corpse commander. This made everyone feel that the corpse race's experts were only SOSO. Their greatest advantage was their large numbers. Only now did he know that the corpse clan also had incredible experts. That sharp aura that was almost solid clearly belonged to the Golden Corpse King's corpse fiend that was hiding here. Judging from the aura coming from afar, everyone knew that this was an existence comparable to an overlord-level demon general. As for exactly how strong an expert was, that would only be known after exchanging blows. The corpse fiend only revealed his aura and did not show himself. He had killed a large number of corpse race clansmen, so there was no need for him to take the risk. The 9 provinces team rampaged all the way until they reached the top of a spiritual mountain. Yang Yuan in giant armor, who were charging at the front, suddenly stopped. They'd charged all the way here, and the clothes on their bodies had already been torn off, causing their robust flesh to be revealed. Their auras seethed while their vital blood roiled. Yang Yuan shouted, "Lu Ye, can we do it here?" The placement of the Tianji pillars was not random, but was rather particular. Lu Yi speculated that the cultivators of the 9 provinces needed to use the Tianji pillars to teleport. However, in such a large environment like the 9 provinces, no one usually paid attention to this matter, so no one noticed. However, this was the Wushuang continent. The 9 provinces Tianji needed to use the 4 Tianji pillars to locate the location. The Wushuang continent was located in H, and when 2 had to be placed in a place with dense spiritual energy, the 4 great secret realms were the best choices. And in the secret realms they had to choose a place where the earth veins intersected, which was a place with relatively dense spiritual energy. In the Silver Snake Valley, the 5-element city was the center of the entire secret realm. It was where the 5 great clans were stationed, so it was naturally where the earth veins intersected. In Mount Meru, the location that Ing Wuji was looking for was the same. In this turbid heaven temple, the most central place where the earth veins intersected was definitely the place where the Golden Corpse King's corpse fiend was hibernating. However, that place was not easy to barge into, so they could only settle for the next best thing. This location was not bad. Hold on, Lu Yi instructed, and immediately took out the last sealed Tianji pillar from his storage space. The long saber in his hand danced, and he dug a hole and threw the Tianji pillar into it. When he made his move, countless corpses swarmed over from all directions. In the sky and on the ground there was an endless number of corpses. Everyone in the 9 provinces team instantly felt a mountain-like pressure. Previously, when they were roaming and ambushing, the pressure they had to endure was actually not that great because they were constantly moving. In the process of moving, no matter how many corpses they had to face at the same time, it was still within their range of tolerance, and they could easily deal with them. However, now that they had stopped and were entrenched in one place, the pressure they had to endure was completely different from before. Fortunately, everyone was an elite among elites carefully selected by the 9 provinces Tianji. Among the 9 provinces Cloud River tier, no one had to settle for the next best thing. This location was not bad. Hold on, Lu Yi instructed, and immediately took out the last sealed Tianji pillar from his storage space. The long saber in his hand danced, and he dug a hole and threw the Tianji pillar into it. When he made his move, countless corpses swarmed over from all directions. In the sky and on the ground there was an endless number of corpses. Everyone in the 9 provinces team instantly felt a mountain-like pressure. Previously, when everyone was roaming around, the pressure that Lomaz felt was actually not very scary. In the process of social movement, they had to face the corpse race at the same time. No matter how many corpses there were, it was still within their range of tolerance, and they could easily deal with them. However, now that they had stopped and were entrenched in one place, the pressure they had to endure was completely different from before. Fortunately, everyone was an elite among elites carefully selected by the 9 provinces Tianji. Among the 9 provinces Cloud River tier, there were no more fluctuations. In this incomparably chaotic place, if Lu Yi had not been paying attention to the movements of the Tianji pillar, he would have almost not noticed it. His heart trembled, and he immediately knew that his previous speculation was not wrong. The Tianji pillar indeed needed to be placed in the 4 great mystery realms. Now, with such a reaction, it was obvious that they needed some time. Another strange rhythm rose and fell from the location of the Tianji pillar. No one noticed it, but this rhythm penetrated the void, rushed out of the Tianji temple's mystery realm, and radiated toward the entire Wushuang continent, and even imprinted into the void. At this moment, on a spiritual peak of Mount Meru in Silver Snake Valley's 5 Elements City, the place where Lu Yi and the others of the Ziwei Dao Palace had previously resided, there were all concealed strange rhythms rising and falling. The formless rhythms spread out in all directions like ripples, radiating toward the 4 poles of heaven and earth. It was as if 4 hearts were recovering, incubating something, and resonating with each other. We've defended. Lu Yi held his saber in hand, turned around and charged out to consolidate the defensive line. When the voice fell, everyone's expression turned cold. Even if they were all dragons and phoenixes among men, it would not be easy for them to defend this small piece of land under such circumstances. Now those who rushed over were only ordinary corpses. The Golden Corpse King's aura had been biting on them, and this was the most fatal threat. No one knew when he would strike, and once the Golden Corpse King struck, it would definitely be a strike from Lei Jian. In the beginning, the defensive perimeter they had formed was still several dozen meters away, but as time went on, everyone retreated step by step. The corpses of the corpses before them piled up into mountains, and the stench of decay filled the surroundings. In such a fierce battle, not to mention Feng Rili and Ning Wuji, even Lu Yi couldn't hold on for long. Yang Yuan and Giant Armor's tower-like bodies were constantly being bombarded, their blood and chi surging. The Silver Corpse commanders and Iron Corpse commanders had already charged over. They knew how powerful Lu Yi and the others were, so the 2 corpse commanders did not tangle with them at all. They both hid among the corpses. Amidst the corpses, they launched an attack before fleeing, giving the 9 provinces team a place to take care of. Both of them brought great trouble. The rhythms from underground continued at a steady pace, completely different from the life-threatening danger the 9 provinces team faced right now. It formed an extremely stark contrast. Finally, at a certain moment, the rhythms suddenly became clear, and with the appearance of the rhythms, There were clearly signs of spiritual qi flowing backwards, buried in the location of the Tianji pillar. It was as if an invisible vortex had appeared, suddenly devouring the dense spiritual qi of the world in the secret realm. At the same time, Silver Snake Valley's 5 Elements City. Under Chu Ruoyu's lead, the powerhouses of the 5 great clans hurried to the small courtyard where Lu Yi had stayed in the past. The abnormality here left them at a loss. No one knew what had happened. They only knew that there had been strange disturbances here since the beginning, and it was even more exaggerated now. It was as if all the spiritual qi of the world in the entire secret realm was gathering here before being devoured. Sensing the disappearance of the tremendous spiritual qi, the expressions of the cultivators of the 5 great clans all changed. When they thought of the outsider who had once brought them great trouble, an ominous feeling welled up in everyone's hearts. After all, this was far too much of a coincidence. This small courtyard was where the outsider had stayed back then. There was no reason why the abnormality would not occur elsewhere, but here. Although they had sent the outsider away, he had definitely left behind something here. Do you know what it is? Chu Ruoyu asked sternly. Such an obvious situation meant that the outsider had left behind something extraordinary. Chapter 829. What was that? The cultivators of the 5 great clans stared blankly at the small pillar-shaped object. No one had seen this thing before, but in their perception, it seemed to have become a black hole, crazily devouring the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the secret realm. At this moment, the entire secret realm seemed to have been swept up by a spiritual energy storm, with a great momentum. If left alone, the spiritual qi of the entire mystic realm would be devoured. When that happened, the mystic realm would collapse. What a ruthless method! Chu Ruoyu's eyes twitched violently. He could not understand what kind of hatred the outsider had for the Silver Snake Valley to leave behind such a vicious method. Quickly dig it out! Someone shouted angrily. Immediately, someone stepped forward and wanted to pull the divine pillar out of the ground. He thought it would be an easy task, but even if the cultivator used all his strength, he could not move the divine pillar at all. Someone at the side could not believe it and stepped forward to help, but it was still the same. Not good, this object is already connected to the earth vein. It's hard to move it. Finally, a knowledgeable old cultivator saw the clue. It was such a small object. It did not make sense that several cultivators were unable to move it. There was only one possibility for such a situation. This object was already closely connected to the earth vein. If they wanted to move it, it was equivalent to moving the earth vein of the Silver Snake Valley. This was not something that could be done by human strength. It's over. A shocking thought appeared in everyone's mind. The cultivators at the scene all staggered and their faces turned pale. What kind of hatred? What kind of hatred? Chu Ruoyu's eyes were bloodshot. He could not understand how Nonghe had offended that young man. How could he let the other party do such a thing? It was not only the cultivators of the Silver Snake Valley who were in despair. It was the same on Mount Meru's side. Lu Zhiguan had just died not long ago. The large and small clans of Mount Meru were busy fighting for the position of the mountain master. Before the dust had settled, a change had occurred. When the cultivators of the 5 great clans of the Silver Snake Valley realized the extraordinary nature of the divine pillar, and its possible consequences, the cultivators of Mount Meru also realized it. As for the Ziwei Dao Palace, they did not have much of a reaction. For this battle, the Ziwei Daoist Palace had put in all of its effort. Any cultivator with a bit of cultivation had, since they had already gone to war. Those who stayed behind were either old and sick soldiers or ordinary people who had never cultivated before. Therefore, although the spirit peak where Lu Yi and the others lived before had a great momentum, it was still not enough. No one dared to rashly investigate. As the pillars of heavenly fate devoured the spiritual energy in the earth veins, the seals on the 4 great secret realms were broken. The small pillars of heavenly fate also expanded in the wind. Like 4 bamboo shoots breaking out of the ground, they suddenly grew bigger and stood between heaven and earth. This was definitely the tallest Tianji pillar that Lu Yi and the others had ever seen. The pillars of Tianji in the 9 prefectures all had the same size and size. They were only about the height of a person. The pillar of divine secrets that had broken out of the ground of the 4 great secret realms had already exceeded the height of a person. Furthermore, it was still growing madly as it devoured a large amount of spiritual chi of heaven and earth. On the surface of the heavenly fate pillar, complicated patterns appeared and disappeared. They were like streams of flowing light swimming on the surface. The exhaustion of the earth veins led to a series of uncontrollable consequences. The thing that worried the Silver Snake Valley and Mount Meru the most happened. The secret realm that had been drifting in the void and had no fixed residence was suddenly exposed to the world. The door was wide open. When this news spread to the ears of the experts of the Silver Snake Valley and Mount Meru, the group of people felt as if the sky had collapsed. After so many years, how could they not be worried about Wuxia? The corpse plague of the Liu clan and Duo Zhenyi relied on nothing more than the uniqueness of the secret realm. As long as they hid in the secret realm, the corpse clan would not be able to do anything to them. Even when they opened the door on normal days, they were careful to avoid being discovered by the corpse clan. The uniqueness of the secret realm was their greatest protection. Protect. But now, as the secret realm passed, this layer of protection that had been maintained for thousands of years suddenly disappeared. Their Han 50,000 continent, along with the entire secret realm, was exposed to the Wuxia continent. To them it was undoubtedly a fatal blow. In the four great secret realms, the four pillars of heaven's secrets grew to a height of nearly 10 feet before stopping. In a short period of time, the earth veins in the four great secret realms were almost completely devoured, and the heaven and earth spirit energy in the secret realm was so thin that it was almost undetectable. In the secret realm of the heavenly temple, on the spirit peak where the pillars of heaven were placed, the 8 members of the 9 regions team were fighting a bloody battle. The situation was dangerous. The mission of this trip had been completed. The pillars of heaven's secrets had been placed down, and it was impossible to shake it again. Even if the Golden Corpse King attacked with all his might, he did not have the ability to do so. At this moment, what Lu Yi and the others needed to do was naturally to break out of the encirclement and leave this place. The 8 of them had been working hard. However, it was easy to come, but how could it be so easy to leave? The huge group of corpses surrounded the place where the 8 of them were. In such a situation, it could be said that it was difficult to move an inch. Yang Yuan and Giant Armor, who were under the greatest pressure, were flushed red like cooked crabs. That was a sign that their blood and chi were boiling. Everyone had varying degrees of injuries on their bodies. The current situation was simply a hopeless situation for the 8 of them. Save me! Suddenly there was a cry of alarm. It was Ying Wuji who was the first to be in danger. In such a situation he was a ghost cultivator. It was difficult to perform. His ability to fight head-on was inferior to the others. Although Giant Armor's cultivation was lower than his, Giant Armor was a body cultivator. His talent was different, and his skin was rough and his flesh was thick. His ability to protect himself in the entire team was better than Lu Yi. Strong. The corpse race would naturally target him and use him as a breakthrough point. Especially the Silver Corpse Commander and Iron Corpse Commander who were hiding in the group of corpses, waiting for an opportunity to move. They had already launched sneak attacks on Ying Wuji more than once. The previous few times the others had worked together to resolve it, but this time the others could not spare a hand. Ying Wuji instinctively called for help at the first moment. In a daze, he was enveloped by great horror. Not far in front of him, the Silver Corpse Commander with silver eyes was hard. The woman stabbed him, causing him to feel pain like an AOBP. He retreated and the Oigolde retreated. At this moment of life and death, he instinctively opened his mouth and shouted, "Everlasting jade blood flow." The moment he finished speaking, a large hand was already on his shoulder. On his shoulder, Meng Diu Li. Teach 4 specialized Hu Shui flew into the air, narrowly avoiding the Silver Corpse Commander's attack. Life strike. From the corner of his eye, a fiery red saber light flashed and disappeared, followed by a faint voice. Dan Heart illuminates 10,000 years. Jing Wuji was stunned. There was a lower division? He had never known. Lu Qing and the others were also speechless. In such a tense and critical moment, what the hell were these 2 people doing? They actually had the mood to chat? Roar! An angry roar sounded. The Silver Corpse Commander who had been injured by the mountain Pandao immediately retreated into the group of corpses, disappearing without a trace. He only kept growling, showing the anger and fear in his heart. However, without waiting for Lu Yi to catch his breath, a great sense of danger suddenly enveloped him. At this moment, his perception was magnified to the limit. When he suddenly turned his head, he saw an unremarkable zombie in the group of corpses throwing a punch at him. It was clearly a simple punch, but it felt like the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. A golden light flashed in the zombie's eyes. Lu Yi raised his saber and slashed at him. The right arm holding the saber suddenly bulged, and in an instant 3 saber slashes fell. One flash. Consecutive slashes. In order to deal with this kind of sudden crisis, this kind of simple fighting technique was the most effective. Although the first style of the Tyrant Blade was powerful at this moment, he didn't have time to gather spirit power to activate it. The Mountain Pan Saber, which had been reinforced with the sharpness spirit inscriptions, was no longer as sharp and invincible as before. It only left a shallow wound on the corpse race's body. Through the wound, one could see the bones glowing with a golden light. The other party's punch landed on Lu Ye's chest. Lu Yi felt his heart stop at this moment. He stopped moving and his body flew out like a ragged sack, slamming heavily into the frightened shadow behind him. Wu Ji was on top of him, causing him to cry out in surprise. That corpse race clansman had succeeded in one move, and was about to take advantage of the situation to kill them all. Don't even think about it. At this moment Lan Zi, who was on the side, finally pulled out her hands. She waved her 2 sabers and almost turned into a spinning top. Saber lights poured out like a storm, constantly slashing out. Mu Qingyun also arrived with her flying sword, and the sword light was sharp. Clanging sounds were heard, and Lan Zi's beautiful eyes changed color. At this moment she felt that she was not slashing at a corpse clan, but an extremely sturdy treasure. The feeling from the slash in her hand made her understand that this opponent's body was unbelievably sturdy. A withered hand pierced through the violent blade edge and sharp sword light. The most primitive and ancient fists struck out together. Lan Zi's body stumbled backward. Mu Qingyun's one with the sword was broken, and her aura was shaken. Golden Corpse King. It was not until this moment that Lu Qing's voice was heard. He recognized the identity of this seemingly inconspicuous corpse clan. It was rumored that Shirsha was originally an ordinary disciple of Turbid Heaven Temple, but after the heavenly change on the Wushuang continent, he encountered something unknown and turned into a corpse clan. He was the first corpse clan in the entire Wushuang continent, and now all the corpse clans in this world were developed with him as the source. 1. For 1,000 years, the Ziwei Dao Palace had always regarded killing the Golden Corpse King as their most important mission, and they had taken the initiative to attack many times. However, they had never succeeded. Those Dao Palace cultivators who died in battle had never even seen the Golden Corpse King's face. It had to be said that it was extremely sad. Previously, when the Golden Corpse King's aura recovered and filled the air, everyone knew that he was definitely an overlord-level existence. At this moment when they fought, they realized that even among overlord-level existences, the Golden Corpse King was definitely at the top. The first corpse clan on the Wushuang continent, after 1,000 years of seclusion and cultivation, had allowed his strength to grow to an unbelievable level. Lu Yi was caught off guard and was repelled and injured. Lan Zi and Mu Qingyun, who had helped, were also helpless. At this moment the ordinary-looking Golden Corpse King was like a torrent, tearing a gap in the formation of the 9 states team. His mouth contained a terrifying power that could destroy everything. The corpse fiend's sharp fingers had actually pierced 5 holes in the shield. Its nails, which glowed with a cold light, pierced through the shield's barrier and entered Yang Yuan's field of vision. Impossible! Yang Yuan's pupils dilated, his eyes filled with disbelief. There was no time for him to be shocked. The luster on the shield quickly dimmed, and it lost most of its spirituality. The zombie's large hand went straight through the shield, and its sharp nails pierced into Yang Yuan's chest. As a body cultivator, Yang Yuan's tempered body was strong enough to withstand the spells of a spell cultivator of the same level. However, the body that he was so proud of was now as fragile as paper. He felt a stabbing pain coming from his chest. He was afraid that in the next moment, his heart would be pierced by the zombie's sharp nails and he would die on the spot. A figure that seemed to be wrapped in flames suddenly shot out from beside him, and as it spun in the air, the blade, light as bright as a star, slashed directly at the zombie's neck. Before the full power of this saber strike could be unleashed, the zombie's golden eyes narrowed slightly. He clearly felt a threat from this saber strike. This blade might not take his life, but if he was hit by it, he would not have a good time. So when the blade slashed out, the zombie retreated without any hesitation, instantly disappearing into the huge crowd of zombies. His presence was retracted, and he disappeared without a trace. The figure that appeared in the air landed in front of Yang Yuan. It was Lu Yi. She had used the momentum to kill a group of zombies in front of her. Yang Yuan staggered slightly, and his entire body was cold. If Lu Yi had made a move just now, he would definitely be dead now. Only 5 breaths of time had passed since Ing Wuji was in danger, and the 9 states team had rushed to help each other, until the zombie retreated. However, in these 5 breaths of time, several people present were in danger of dying. There were obvious traces of blood flowing from the corner of Lu Ye's mouth. The zombie's punch was not easy to take. Yang Yuan's presence also became unstable. Although the zombie did not take his life, it had directly injured him, and at the same time injected the original corpse poison into his body. Fortunately, before they came, everyone had received a special elixir from Wuxia. Wuxia herself could cure the original corpse poison, but the elixir she refined was not so powerful. Its effect was only to suppress the outbreak of the original corpse poison, giving the cultivator who had been poisoned more time to seek treatment. Feeling the changes in his body, Yang Yuan hurriedly took out the elixir and swallowed it. The formation reassembled, and the 8 people supported each other. However, they were no longer as smooth as before. It was not because of anything else, but because when the gap was opened in the formation of the team, everyone was injured. Moreover, after such a long and intense battle, everyone's strength was affected. Lu Yi, as the only magic cultivator in the team, Lu Qing stood in the safest position. However, among the 8 of them, he had killed the most corpses. In this aspect, not even Lu Yi could compare. The destructive power of such a powerful large-scale spell technique was simply too terrifying in this environment. I'm afraid we're going to die here. What do you think? He had no intention of blaming Lu Yi. Before they set out, everyone had known that this would be dangerous, but they had not expected the situation to be so bad. Following Lu Yi was his personal choice, and Lu Qing had no intention of holding Lu Yi responsible for the various consequences that would arise. They were all dragons and phoenixes among this generation of 9 provinces cultivators, so they still had this bit of responsibility and awareness. However, in the face of death, he could not help but find something to say. I don't dare to think about anything. Lu Yi continuously swung his saber, the fiery red saber light flickering. With each slash, a large number of corpses fell to the ground. The corpses in front of them piled up like a mountain, but there was still an endless stream of corpses swarming over. How unlucky to have to die together with you. Lu Qing let out a long sigh. Ha ha ha, great. Feng Ruli, on the other hand, seemed to have gone mad. If it wasn't for giant armor pulling him back, this person would probably have charged out. Lu Yi, I've actually tolerated you for a long time. The 2 scimitars in Ing Wuji's hands danced as he killed the corpse race while shouting and venting. It was as if he wouldn't have the chance to speak if he didn't. You think you can order others around just because you are strong? Who do you think you are? If not for the fact that I can't beat you, I would have beaten you until you kneel on the ground and call me grandpa. Lu Qing laughed. Strength is respected among cultivators. Ing Wuji, you're taking things too hard. I haven't been alone with him before, but if you were alone with him for a while, you would know how hateful this guy is. He orders others to do all the dirty work while he hides in the back to enjoy his life. I, Ing Wuji, am also a dragon among men, but this guy doesn't take others seriously. How hateful, how hateful. Lu Qing leisurely said, be careful, he'll cut you right now. Ing Wuji straightened his neck. What's there to be afraid of? It's just a matter of dying sooner or later. You've got guts. Lu Qing praised Ing Wuji. Ing Wuji sighed again. Lu Yi, although your character isn't that good, you've saved me a few times. I'm afraid I won't be able to repay you for saving my life. I'll repay you in my next life when I have the chance. Be an ox or a horse? Lu Qing teased. In his dreams. Maybe I'll be the one to save his life in the next life. Ing Wuji clearly had some wild thoughts about his next life. If you have the energy to talk, why don't you kill more corpses? Lan Zi couldn't listen anymore. Although the group was still fighting bravely and resisting with difficulty, what was with this strange atmosphere? At this moment a sudden change occurred. Originally, when the corpses were killed, they were killed. But at this moment, when the group killed the corpses, specks of light floated out of the corpses like fireflies, and then fell on the back of the group's hands like chasing the stars and the moon. The situation on Lu Qing's side was the most obvious. A large number of specks of light floated over from all directions, imprinted on the back of his hand and disappeared. Next was Lu Yi. The 8 people couldn't help but be stunned. This was... Then, everyone reacted and hurriedly immersed their minds to sense their own battlefield imprints. In the next moment the 8 people were overjoyed. The battlefield imprints that had been unresponsive since they came to the Wuxia continent finally recovered at this moment. The reason why there was no response before was obviously because this place was beyond the range of the 9 regions Tianji. The Wuxia continent was not part of the 9 regions, but belonged to another domain that had nothing to do with the 9 regions, so the battlefield imprints were useless. At this moment the battlefield imprints reacted, which undoubtedly meant one thing. The 9 regions Tianji had opened a connection with the Wuxia continent. This made everyone realize one thing. Lu Ye's previous guess was correct. After the 4 sealed Tianji pillars were placed in the 4 great mystery realms, they could absorb the power of the ley lines and spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the mystery realms, allowing the 9 regions to accurately pinpoint the location of the Wuxia continent, and then establish the necessary connection. So the battlefield imprints reacted. And so when the group killed the corpses, specks of light would float into the imprints. Battle merit. This is battle merit. Ing Wuji was excited because he discovered that those specks of light didn't bring battle merit, but more valuable battle merit. In this short moment, he had already obtained hundreds of battle merit. Even for people like them, it was not easy to obtain battle merit. After all, the level of the Cloud River tier was too low, and could only obtain battle merit in some special occasions. So when Ing Wuji discovered that he could obtain battle merit by killing the corpses, one could imagine the excitement in his heart. Then he was annoyed. Before the battlefield imprints reacted, he had killed a large number of corpses, but did not obtain any battle merit. Chapter 831. 9 States, Cloud River Battlefield, West 35 Heaven's Secret City. As the only Heaven's Secret City within a radius of 30,000 kilometers, the Heaven's Secret Commerce Alliance was naturally bustling with activity. Every day, there was an endless stream of 9 regions cultivators coming and going in this city. The spacious streets were full of people, and the stream of people was jostling one another. The Heaven's Secret Commerce Alliance's business was booming, and they made a lot of money every day. It had been more than a month since the Cloud River battle ended, and those who were supposed to break through to the True Lake realm had already done so. Now it was time for the new batch of Cloud River realm cultivators to compete for supremacy. Those who had some cultivation were working hard to consolidate their foundation and prepare for the next Cloud River battle. Those who had just entered the Cloud River battlefield were working hard to improve themselves and catch up with their predecessors. In the cultivation environment of the 9 states, the Spirit Stream battlefield and the Cloud River battlefield were 2 treasured lands that nurtured cultivators. Generation after generation of young talents were like the waves of the river, and the waves behind pushed the waves before them. In front of the Commerce Alliance's Heaven's Secret pillars, there were 4 long queues in 4 directions. As the cultivators waited, those who were familiar with them whispered to each other. Although it had been more than a month since the Cloud River battle, it was still a topic of conversation for many cultivators. Especially Lu Yi, who had obtained the first place. As an 8th order Cloud River realm cultivator, he had created an unprecedented miracle, and was destined to be remembered by those who came after him. There were many who were familiar with him, but there were also many who were unfamiliar with him. His past was naturally dug up by those who were interested. Looking at his path of cultivation, it was simply a history of blood and tears as he constantly fought against the 10,000 Demons Ridge. Wherever he went, there would be endless storms and extremely lively. The sect exterminating Yi and the spirit stream 3 disasters also spread like wildfire. Speaking of which, there hasn't been any news of Louis Yi recently, someone suddenly said. Why, do you miss him? No, it's just that such a person will eventually rise up and leave his name in history, so it's natural to pay more attention to him. That guy obtained the first place in the Cloud River battle and obtained a total of 20 golden spirit lots. I'm afraid he's cultivating in seclusion or has already reached the true lake realm. That's a pity. Without Louis Yi, the Cloud River battlefield will be much less lively in the future. Wouldn't it be better for such a disaster to leave as soon as possible? Once he leaves the Cloud River battlefield, there will naturally be even more powerful experts to deal with him. But then again, the speed at which his cultivation increases is truly fast, truly making others envious. It's just that he had a lot of opportunities. If we also had that many opportunities, the speed of our cultivation would definitely not be slower than his. That's easy to say, but opportunities aren't something that can be encountered so easily. It's precisely because it's so rare that it's like, what's going on? The lively conversation came to an abrupt end. All the cultivators who were waiting in line for the transaction looked at the Tianji pillar in astonishment. The cultivators nearby couldn't help but take a few steps back. This was because the heavenly fate pillar, which had never had any abnormalities before, suddenly shone brightly. As the group of cultivators looked at it in bewilderment, the heavenly fate pillar suddenly shone with complicated patterns. The patterns flowed with light and then dissipated, gathering in the void in front of the heavenly fate pillar. A moment later, an oval-shaped 3-meter-tall light gate that could accommodate 4 people walking side by side appeared in everyone's vision. The entire place was silent. Everyone's gaze was focused on the gate on the first floor of the Heavenly Fate Commerce Alliance. This matter even alarmed the expert of the Commerce Alliance who was overseeing this place. A skinny middle-aged man with an expressionless face flashed over and landed in front of the light gate. He looked at it intently. The steward of the Commerce Alliance, who had seen the light gate with his own eyes, immediately came forward to report the situation. The middle-aged man listened as he looked at the light gate thoughtfully. There were many questions in his heart. Why would a gate appear in front of the Commerce Alliance's Heavenly Fate pillar? Where did this gate lead to? Such a bizarre thing had never happened before. I'll go take a look. The middle-aged man was confident in his cultivation. He instructed the steward beside him and walked toward the gate. However, in the next instant, it was as if he had crashed into an invisible wall. He couldn't help but retreat. He understood that this gate could only allow cultivators of the Cloud River tier to pass through. Although he appeared to be a Cloud River tier cultivator, he was actually a true Lake tier cultivator. Naturally, he couldn't pass through. Senior, what's going on with this gate? Someone asked. The middle-aged man obviously received some information at this moment and was checking his battlefield imprint. Soon he raised his eyebrows. This was because the information indicated that this gate wasn't the only one that had appeared in the Commerce Alliance. Many other Commerce Alliances had appeared in them. As for whether this situation spread across the entire Cloud River battlefield, it wasn't confirmed yet. However, it wasn't a bad thing for the gate to appear in such a place. After pondering for a while, the middle-aged man said, "Maybe it's an opportunity bestowed by the heavens." As soon as he finished speaking, many cultivators became excited. Actually, when the gate appeared, some people had already thought of this point. They were tempted, but they didn't dare to act rashly. Now that even the Commerce Alliance people said so, it must be true. Normally, such a gate would lead to a mystic realm. Mystic realms were places that cultivators loved to train, because there was a high chance of obtaining battle merits there. Just now, some people were still saying that this was a rare opportunity. Who would have thought that a gate to a mystic realm would appear in front of them in the blink of an eye? Of course, some impatient and bold people couldn't help but walk out of the crowd and walk toward the gate. This was a rare opportunity, so they naturally had to grasp it. The middle-aged man naturally wouldn't stop them, and there was no need to stop them. Although he didn't know where the gate led to or what dangers lay behind the gate, the path of cultivation had always been filled with thorns. It was never a smooth journey. He only said, "If there is any danger behind the gate, the Commerce Alliance won't be responsible. Everyone, please behave yourselves." Who would care about him? After the first cultivator stepped into the gate and disappeared, A large number of cultivators swarmed toward the gate from all directions. It was as if they were afraid that if they were late, the benefits would be taken away by others. This kind of situation was happening at almost the same time in the various merchant alliances of the Cloudy River battlefield. Those cultivators who originally came to the merchant alliances to buy things were all rushing towards the doors in front of the Pillars of Heaven's secrets. Wushuang Continent. Muddy Heaven Temple's mystic realm. Battle merits. This is battle merits. Ing Wuji's excited voice echoed because he found that after killing the Corpse Clan, he could obtain precious battle merits. The others also found this and their hearts trembled. Lu Qing poured a basin of cold water on them. Even if you have the life to take it, you have to have the life to spend it. The enthusiasm and excitement in everyone's hearts was doused. In the current situation, everyone was almost in a desperate situation. Not to mention the injuries on everyone's body for the time being, among the 8 people, 4 had already been poisoned by the corpse origin poison. Only Lu Yi, Lanzi, Mu Qingyun, and Zhu Jiao were not affected by the corpse origin poison for the time being. If the other 4 couldn't quickly get out of here and find Hua Xi for treatment, they would be turned into a member of the Corpse Clan sooner or later. The more they urged their spirit power, the weaker the suppressive effect of the spirit pill, and the sooner the corpse origin poison would break out. Once the 4 of them were turned into Corpse Clan members, the remaining 4 wouldn't have a good ending. In the end, they were at the end of the road. The Golden Corpse King Corpse Fiend had clearly seen this as well, so after being forced back by Lu Yi earlier, it did not appear again. Even the Silver Corpse Commanders and Iron Corpse Commanders did not come to cause trouble anymore. Only a vast number of Corpse Clansmen surged over like the tide. Almost as the 8 people of the 9 States team were at their wits' end and could only resign themselves to fate, an unusual spirit power fluctuation suddenly appeared not far away. Everyone was shocked, and they hurriedly sized him up. On the 30-meter-tall divine pillar beside them, flowing light flashed incessantly again. Even the divine pillar itself was shaking violently. What's going on? Everyone was bewildered. Asterisk crash. Asterisk as if a star had shattered. Rays of light radiated from the divine pillar in all directions, landing on various locations in the mysterious realm of Round Heaven Temple. When the rays of light landed, they didn't dissipate. Instead, they constantly twisted and stretched, turning into an oval-shaped portal in an extremely short time. Each ray of light turned into a portal. Thousands of rays of light turned into thousands of portals. In the sky and on the ground, there were even many flowing lights that passed through the mysterious realm of the Sacred Palace and landed near the battlefield where the cultivators of the Ziwei Dao Palace and the stronghold were. In the mysterious realm of Round Heaven Temple, the closest portal was less than 300 meters away from Lu Yi and the others. From that portal, an aura that everyone was extremely familiar with leaked out. This is... Lu Qing looked at the portal and sensed the familiar aura. Suddenly, as if realizing something, he turned his head to look at Lu Yi, whose expression remained calm even in the face of such a desperate situation. 9 states? Lu Yi focused on killing the enemy and ignored him. Every ray of light turned into a portal. Thousands of rays of light turned into thousands of portals. In the sky and on the ground, there were even many flowing lights that passed through the mysterious realm of the Sacred Palace and the stronghold, landing near the battlefield where the cultivators of the Ziwei Dao Palace and the stronghold were. In the mysterious realm of Round Heaven Temple, the closest portal was less than 300 meters away from Lu Yi and the others. From that portal, an aura that everyone was incomparably familiar with leaked out. This is... Lu Qing looked at the portal and sensed the familiar aura. Suddenly, as if realizing something, he turned his head to look at Lu Yi, whose expression remained calm even in the face of such a desperate situation. 9 states. Lu Yi focused on killing the enemy and ignored him. Lu Qing couldn't help but ask Lu Yi, "Is that 9 states? Did you think of it long ago?" Lu Yi said indifferently, "Since Tianji can establish a connection with us and the Tianji pillars have been set up, the cultivators of 9 states can naturally teleport over." Lu Qing froze for a moment and then laughed. "So that's how it is. Lu, yeah, you really hit it well. So this is our backup plan and reliance. No wonder you're so calm in such a desperate situation. I really thought you weren't afraid of death. It's not that I hit it well, it's that you're too stupid." "Okay, I'm stupid. Lu Qing was not angry at all. Instead, his expression was carefree. There was nothing more delightful than surviving a desperate situation. As for Lu Ye's verbal attack, it wasn't like he would lose anything, so why should he care so much? We're going to have reinforcements? Feng really asked in surprise. Although he was not as smart as Lu Qing, if he still couldn't figure out the situation after listening to the conversation between the two, then he was really stupid. With the Tianji pillars here and so many portals connected to 9 states, it was obvious that a large number of reinforcements were about to cross the border from 9 states. Chapter 832. By then they would no longer be fighting alone. Instead, they would have the support of the entire 9 provinces. Now that the gates had appeared, would reinforcements still be far away? The appearance of the portals made the Corpse clan extremely vigilant. Many scattered Corpse clan members near the portals wanted to charge in and investigate, but even if they passed through the portals, it was as if they had passed through an invisible layer. There was no reaction. Just as the Corpse clan members were bewildered, the space enveloped by the gates suddenly distorted. Soon afterwards, a figure abruptly appeared. Behind the first figure was a second, then a third. In the blink of an eye, endless streams of cultivators appeared one after another. It was the same for every single gate. Yuan Lai came from a 5th grade sect in the Mist province. His talent was not bad, having reached the 6th order Cloud River realm now. However, at this point in time, such a cultivation level was actually not very competitive. In the Cloud River battle that had already ended, he did not obtain many benefits. Therefore, he could only set his sights on the next Cloud River battle. The next time would be 5 years later. 5 years was enough for him to reach the peak of the Cloud River realm and accumulate a sufficiently powerful foundation. However, to achieve that, he needed sufficient cultivation resources. The monthly stipends given by the sect were not enough for cultivation. This was also a method that the large sects of the 9 provinces used to nurture their disciples. Even first-grade sects would never give their disciples enough cultivation resources. This was because only when they lacked cultivation resources could their disciples train themselves. If they really did have sufficient cultivation resources, they would only nurture a bunch of useless people who only had cultivation but could not fight. The various fortuitous encounters on the Cloud River battlefield and the battles with cultivators from opposing factions were all methods and paths for cultivators to train themselves. In particular, the former was something that could only be chanced upon by luck. As a result, when a gate that seemed to lead to a certain secret realm appeared within the Heavenly Secret Commerce Alliance, Yuan Lai stepped in with the crowd. The process of teleportation took about 5 hours. He even felt discomfort when he was teleported, like the world was spinning around him. At this moment, a piece of information exploded in his heart. He had entered and exited several mystic realms before, so he naturally knew that when entering a mystic realm with a realm as its background, the heavenly secrets would sometimes bestow some special identities to the cultivators to facilitate their actions. At the same time, the heavenly secrets would also allow the cultivators to roughly understand the basic situation within the mystic realm. Therefore, when this information exploded in his mind, Yuan Lai did not panic at all and hurriedly checked. But the result surprised him because he wasn't given any special information about the secret realm. The message was simple and clear. Exterminate the corpse race. What was the corpse race? He had never heard of it before. Before Yuan Xiang could understand what was going on, the field of vision was closed. The long teleportation in middle school number 1 had ended. Experienced cultivators knew to use their spirit tools and spirit power to protect themselves at this time, because no one knew what kind of dangers they would encounter when they stepped into the unknown. Yuan Lai was no exception. He hurriedly urged his spirit power and summoned his spirit artifact at the same time. Roars and shouts rang in his ears. As far as the eye could see, many of the 9 provinces' cultivators who came here before him were already fighting with a group of unknown enemies. The air was filled with the stench of decay. Yuan Lai was no stranger to this smell. It was the stench of rotting corpses after a long time of death. Looking at the enemies in front of him again, many of them seemed to be rotting corpses with rotten flesh hanging from their bodies. There were also some who seemed to be air-dried corpses with skinny bodies. This was the corpse race? They lived up to their name. Not far away, a delicate-looking female cultivator bent over there. Her expression was difficult, and her face was pale. It was obvious that she had never experienced such a battle before, nor had she seen such disgusting enemies. Roar! A skinny corpse race member flew over and grabbed at the female cultivator. Yuan Lai's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He leaped out and stabbed at the corpse race member with his sword. However, the other party did not dodge. Instead, he allowed the sword to stab at his chest and clawed at the female cultivator's head. With a crack like a watermelon exploding, Yuan Lai's eyelids twitched. Many of the cultivators from the 9 regions had suffered a great loss in the battle between the Hui and the Corpse clan. This was because, in the ordinary sense, the vital points of the Corpse clan were nothing to the Corpse clan. They were originally from the Undead clan, and they were also people who came back from the dead. The only way to kill the Corpse clan was to cut off their heads or crush their bones. There were many casualties among the 9 provinces cultivators who arrived here first, but more 9 provinces cultivators came one after another. In the face of a common enemy like the Corpse race, no one cared about the opposition between the Grand Heaven Alliance and the Myriad Devil Ridge. Everyone displayed their skills and abilities. The experienced and capable cultivators shouted and led the latecomers to strengthen the defense line beside the door. They fought steadily. After the initial chaos, the 9 provinces cultivators built their own barriers in front of the door. As more and more latecomers joined in, the barriers became stronger and stronger. Gradually, they had the ability to fight back. There were very few secret realms where large-scale wars broke out. In the past, the secret realms in the 9 regions were all space-time silhouettes of broken realms. The cultivators had a stage of adaptation when they entered, but the Wuxia continent, however, the peerless continent, was an exception. Therefore, the cultivators from the 9 provinces suffered some losses because they were caught off guard. However, no one flinched because almost everyone noticed one thing at the first moment. Killing the Corpse race could earn them military merits. The 9 provinces cultivators' desire for military merits was unimaginable. Therefore, although many of the pioneers had died in battle and the battle was extremely fierce, the enthusiasm of the 9 provinces cultivators gradually rose. Like a spark ignited in the wilderness, the cultivators of 9 regions vented their spiritual power and radiated the flames in all directions. Outside the secret realm of the heavenly sacred temple, on the battlefield where the Dao Palace's cultivators and the Talk House's cultivators were, the 3 soaring dragon boats were almost scrapped. Relying on this San Juan So, the defensive line formed by the soaring dragon boat was also on the verge of collapsing under the attack of the Corpse race. Peng Huanin had already ordered a retreat for Lu Yi and the others who had entered the secret realm of the heavenly sacred temple. However, Lu Yi and the others had not appeared, since they entered the secret realm of the heavenly sacred temple. How could Peng Huanin leave them alone? When Lu Yi and the others were in danger in the heavenly sacred temple, the situation here was not optimistic either. Until the cultivators of the 9 provinces suddenly arrived. In midair, Peng Huanin, Elder Shao, and the others stared at the unfamiliar figures who came out of the doors with their mouths agape. They were extremely shocked. Originally, they were at an absolute disadvantage. Countless cultivators from the Dao Palace and the Stronghold had died in battle. However, at this moment, with the help of these sudden reinforcements, the situation seemed to have reversed in a short time. Fellow Daoist Hua, they are. Peng Huanin suddenly sensed something and turned to look at Hua Ci, who was heavily guarded. As the only medical cultivator who could cure the Corpse race's origin poison, Hua Ci's protection was naturally very tight. Since the battle began, the Dao Palace had a group of people who were specially assigned to protect her. At this moment, Hua Ci was detoxifying a cultivator who had been poisoned by the Corpse race's origin poison. As soon as she finished speaking, she was the first to charge out. Peng Huanin had been on the defensive all this while. Now it was finally time to counterattack. Behind her, the cultivators from both the Dao Palace and the Stronghold turned into streaks of colorful light and dove into the vast battlefield like a sea of stars. Before the doors, the 9 states cultivators also noticed the situation on Peng Huanin's side. Some were puzzled and some were puzzled. Where did this group of seemingly extraordinary forces come from? However, they were soon relieved. No matter where they came from, they were still humans. The 9 states cultivators only had one mission for this trip, and that was to eliminate the zombie clan. Chapter 833. In the secret realm of the Heavenly Palace, the place where the 8-man team of the 9 prefectures was located. It had long turned into a purgatory. The broken bodies and rotten flesh of the corpse clan piled up into mountains, and the flowing blood converged into a river. The biggest crisis had passed. With the arrival of reinforcements from the 9 prefectures, the pressure on this side was quickly reduced. At this moment, 8 figures stood on the mountain of corpses, and no corpse clan dared to disturb them. Looking around, they saw many doors blossoming everywhere. Many cultivators of the 9 prefectures charged out of the doors and formed battle formations to fight against the corpse clan. The situation here was also noticed by many cultivators of the 9 prefectures. After recognizing the identities of Lu Yi and the others, and seeing their terrifying battle record, they were all amazed and impressed. I can't take it anymore. Feng Ruli's excitement made Guochun feel sore all over. Moreover, he had been poisoned by the original corpse poison. Because of the corpse origin poison, his face was covered with an abnormal layer of yellow. I have to hurry and find that fellow Taoist Hua. Otherwise, I'll become a corpse clan member. As he said this, he jumped up from the mountain of corpses with his long spear and rushed toward the secret realm of the Heavenly Palace. Let's go, let's go, Lu Qing said and followed Feng Ruli. Ing Wuji and Yang Yuan also left in a hurry. Even Mu Qingyun nodded slightly at Lu Yi and soared into the sky. In the previous battle, 4 people of the 8-man team were poisoned by the corpse origin poison, and Mu Qingyun was not spared. Although the spirit pill refined by Hua Xi temporarily suppressed the poison, it was only a temporary suppression. During the battle, the spiritual energy surged, and the effect of the spirit pill was gradually consumed. At this moment, everyone felt that something was wrong. They knew that if they did not hurry to get rid of the corpse origin poison, there might be some extremely bad consequences. If they were really turned into corpse clan members, they would be in big trouble. On Mount P, only Lu Yi, Lanzi, and Giant Armor survived. Lanzi looked at Lu Yi and Giant Armor with a bewildered expression. He had a lot of questions but no one answered. The main reason was that these 2 people were too strange. One of them was covered in wounds but showed no signs of being poisoned. Logically speaking, when fighting with the corpse clan, one should not be careless about any injuries, because one of the wounds might be injected with the corpse origin poison. As for the other one, after such a long battle, there wasn't even a single wound on his naked upper body. How strong must one's physique be to be able to remain unscathed in such a high-intensity chaotic battle? Is this guy's physical body at the level of a magic tool? It should be known that as a body cultivator, Yang Yuan also had quite a few wounds on his body. Aside from the wounds inflicted by the Golden Corpse King's corpse fiend, he had also sustained some additional injuries in the subsequent battle. The reason why she was able to escape unscathed was because she was wearing a protective soft armor. Otherwise, she would definitely be one of the victims of the origin corpse poison. What 2 freaks? Then she saw an even stranger scene. Lu Yi casually took out a handful of spirit pills and stuffed them into her mouth. Her cheeks puffed up high as she mumbled to Giant Armor beside her, "Recover." "Oh," Giant Armor replied, then closed its eyes. Munch, munch, munch. Lu Yi glanced at Lanzi as he chewed on the spirit pill. He saw that the corners of her eyes were twitching violently. She had never dared to imagine that someone would consume so many spirit pills in one go. Those were spirit pills, not candy. After eating so many spirit pills, isn't he afraid that the pill poison will accumulate in a short period of time, and his spiritual power will become impure? No cultivator, no matter their cultivation base, would consume spirit pills like that. Is this guy crazy? Gulp. After the spirit pills were swallowed, Lanzi heard a buzzing sound coming from Lu Ye's stomach. It sounded as if lightning was swimming in it, or as if a millstone was grinding. He even dared to activate the gluttonous meal. Lanzi was completely speechless. Naturally, she knew about the useless gluttonous meal. Hence, when she heard the sound coming from Lu Ye's stomach, she knew what Lu Yi was doing. He's really not afraid of death. Not only did he consume so many spirit pills in one go, he even activated the gluttonous meal to refine the spirit pill's medicinal effects. However, it had to be said that the effects were obvious, because Lan Zi could clearly sense that Lu Ye's aura, which was originally low due to the long battle, was rapidly recovering. It was rapidly recovering. This undoubtedly meant that his spiritual energy was rapidly recovering. But, is this necessary? Such a method of recovery was practically a joke with his own future. Suddenly, there was another surge of spiritual power beside her. Lan Zi looked at Giant Armor again and saw that Giant Armor, who had just closed his eyes, had already opened his eyes. His spiritual power was surging to the point that it was about to spill out. It's done. Giant Armor buzzed. What's done? Lan Zi suddenly felt like she was in a dream. Lu Ye could quickly recover his spiritual power, because he used some special method. She saw it clearly. What was the situation on Giant Armor's side? From the time he closed his eyes to the time he opened them, it had only been 10 breaths. The many losses from the previous battle had been completely replenished. Has it been replenished? She did not see any signs of Giant Armor consuming spirit pills or absorbing spirit stone's power. Let's go. Lu Yi called out and stepped in a direction. He did not choose to fly, but every step he took covered a distance of more than 10 feet. Giant Armor remained silent and followed closely behind. It did not even ask what Lu Yi was doing. Wait! Only then did Lan Zi come back to her senses. She quickly followed and walked side by side with Lu Yi. She tilted her head and said, "Together." She had already sensed what Lu Yi was going to do. Although this trip was bound to be extremely risky, if this matter was successful, they would definitely obtain a large amount of battle merits. She did not want to miss such an opportunity. Lu Yi did not chase her away. Lan Zi had the strength. Although it should be enough to join forces with Giant Armor, one more person was always one more force. Wherever they passed, the Corpse Clan would constantly charge out to disturb them. However, the few of them had already charged through such a huge storm before, so why would they care about the thorns in front of them? The three of them advanced forward in a row. Wherever they passed, specks of fluorescent light would constantly escape from the bodies of the killed Corpse Clan members and float into the back of their hands. However, very soon Lan Zi sensed something. She tilted her head and asked, "Lu Ye, do you not know where he is?" Because she discovered that Lu Ye's actions did not have a clear goal. It seemed like he was just searching in the process of wandering and hunting. Lu Yi beheaded a Corpse Clan member with a slash and casually responded, "Do you know?" He indeed did not know where the target was because the target this time was really too inconspicuous. In the current environment where the Corpse Clan was everywhere, it was impossible to find him at all unless he took the initiative to expose himself. However, in the current situation, how could he easily expose himself? Thus, Lu Yi could only slowly search as he killed the Corpse Clan members. There was no need to see with his own eyes. Previously, when the target suddenly appeared to ambush him and then injured Yang Yuan, Lu Yi had already memorized his aura. As long as the target appeared within his range of perception, it would be impossible for him to escape. "I don't know either." Lan Zi's voice weakened slightly. "Then stop talking nonsense." The three of them continued to wander and hunt, helping many cultivators from the 9 states to resolve their difficulties. After recognizing Lu Yi and Lan Zi's identities, many cultivators from the 9 states were all excited. It turned out that the first 2 in the Cloud River battle for supremacy were here, and they were even working together. In that case, this trip to exterminate the Corpse Clan was clearly not difficult. Everywhere they passed, there were not only the broken bodies of the Corpse Clan members on the ground, but also the corpses of many cultivators from the 9 states. It could be seen how intense the battle previously was. Suddenly a shrill cry was heard. Lu Ye's figure immediately swayed, and he shot toward the source of the sound. In a short moment, he had arrived at the battlefield there. Since the battle had started, the liveliness in front of the various gates had already disappeared. The Corpse Clan had also sensed that the visitors from the 9 states were not to be trifled with, and they all fled in all directions. Many cultivators from the 9 states had also left the gates, and formed teams with their friends and family to wander and hunt. At this moment there was a small team of more than a dozen people that had met with a calamity. They were currently surrounded by a group of Corpse Clan members. If that was all, it would be fine, but the key was that there was an extremely powerful existence in this group of Corpse Clan members. The Iron Corpse Commander. In a true sense, not only was the Golden Corpse King a corpse demon and overlord-level existence, the three great generals under its command were all overlord-level existences. An overlord-level existence was definitely not something that ordinary Cloud River tier cultivators could contend against. However, relatively speaking, the corpse demon strength was stronger than the three great generals. Previously, the Copper Corpse Commander had died sullenly, mainly because he had not imagined that the strength of the 8 people from the 9 states team would be so strong. Even with their cooperation, he had been killed on the spot in a mere 10 breaths' time. The advantage of grinding down the huge group of Corpse clan members was completely useless under Lu Ye's powerful perception. Faced with the 8 people from the 9 states team, the Iron Corpse Commander had not been able to do much, but faced with this kind of ordinary group of more than a dozen people, the Iron Corpse Commander had been killed in a single move. The strongest person in the remaining team had been killed in a single move by him. The rest of the team was also in imminent danger. It was at this critical moment that the Corpse clan that had surrounded them suddenly became chaotic. Immediately afterward, a fiery red figure charged out like a cleaving wave, and a swift and fierce saber slashed directly at the Iron Corpse Commander. Faced with this sudden attack, the Iron Corpse Commander was not the slightest bit concerned. He merely raised an arm to block the saber. At this moment, his iron-colored skin suddenly tightened, and it was as if it had really turned into fine iron. However, in the next instant, the expression on his stiff face changed. The figure that was imprinted in his field of vision was shockingly one of the few people who had charged into the turbid Heaven Sacred Palace at the very beginning. The Iron Corpse Commander was actually not too concerned about the other people, but this saber-wielding fellow was the only existence that the Iron Corpse Commander was wary of. Because this was the fellow who had wounded the Golden Corpse King. The corpse chi around him suddenly surged, and gathered on his arm. Clang! This saber seemed to have really struck fine iron, and a crisp sound rang out. The saber's edge broke through the Iron Corpse Commander's defenses, and penetrated 3 inches into the bone, but it was unable to sever his arm. Meanwhile, the Iron Corpse Commander borrowed the force of this saber's vibration to withdraw and flee to the back, wanting to leave this place. However, in the next instant, a tall and slender figure charged out from behind, as if she had long anticipated that he would flee this way. 2 exaggeratedly long sabers danced, and a dazzling saber light storm directly enveloped the Iron Corpse Commander. Chapter 834. Clang, 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 clang. A series of clangs rang out like raindrops hitting a banana leaf. The Iron Corpse Commander's body shook violently. Wounds appeared on his body from shallow to deep. His flesh and blood were torn apart. The Iron Corpse Commander had just taken flight and moved 100 feet to the side. However, he was still unable to shake off the storm of attacks. Roar! He opened his mouth and roared. Corpse chi rippled around him. He threw a punch that pierced through the saber veil and headed straight for Lan Zi. Clang! Another clang rang out. Lan Zi crossed her sabers before her and blocked the attack with precision. However, she was also forced back by a violent force. At this moment, the Iron Corpse Commander was greatly alarmed. A strong sense of danger surged in his heart like boiling water. He turned his head and looked to the side. He saw Lu Yi, who had launched a sneak attack and forced him back with a single saber, standing not far away. He held a saber in one hand, and his sharp gaze pierced into the Iron Corpse Commander's body like a sword. He poured all his power into the saber in his hand, causing the arcane artifact-level Pan-Shan saber to blaze as if it was on fire. The Iron Corpse Commander could tell with a single glance that Lu Yi was accumulating power. The next slash he was about to unleash would definitely be earth-shattering. The Iron Corpse Commander did not panic. No matter how powerful the slash was, it had to hit him first. At this moment, Lu Yi was accumulating power. He had already forced Lan Zi back, and the remaining humans were nothing to be afraid of. Hence he leaped into the air, intending to leave this troublesome place. His body had only leaped 10 meters into the air when a large hand, like an iron hoop, suddenly reached out from nowhere and grabbed his ankle. Under the Iron Corpse Commander's shocked gaze, the large hand suddenly exerted force and directly pulled him down from the air. In the next instant, the Iron Corpse Commander felt his vision turn upside down. He lost control of his body and crashed heavily onto the ground. It was the owner of the large hand that had grabbed him. He was being beaten up like a rag sack. Boom! A crater instantly appeared on the ground. Powerful vibrations spread in all directions, causing the eyelids of the group of 9 states cultivators who had just been attacked to twitch. Boom, boom, boom. The large armored arm swung left and right as it smashed against the ground with loud bangs. The Iron Corps commander flew into a rage. With his powerful physical body, such an encounter would naturally not cause him any serious injuries, but he had never been treated like this before. When he was electrocuted, his body was like a boneless viper, clinging to the giant armor. With a twist of his body, he rode on giant armor's neck. Die! He roared angrily and grabbed giant armor's neck with one hand, thrusting it toward giant armor's head. Everyone who saw this scene had a change of expression. Ding! The Iron Corps commander's eyes narrowed slightly as disbelief filled his eyes. This was because the sure kill attack of his actually didn't cause any damage to his opponent. He could clearly see that the moment his attack landed, the spirit energy above his opponent's head suddenly condensed and manifested. It looked like a tortoise shell that had been shrunk countless times. It was sturdy enough to block his attack. Before he could be surprised, an unprecedented sense of danger suddenly descended upon him, enveloping him. He raised his head abruptly. Lu Ye's figure was already lunging over in his field of vision. After a short build-up, his aura had risen to a level that made the Iron Corps commander's expression change. The saber that he had yet to unleash caused the Iron Corps commander to feel fear that he hadn't felt in a long time. With a smack, giant armor extended his other hand and grabbed the Iron Corps commander's hand that was on his neck. With one arm and one leg bound, and unable to escape, the Iron Corps commander finally panicked. Lu Ye leapt up slightly. He slashed out with his saber, which was covered in flames. He brushed past giant armor and the Iron Corps commander who was riding him. He slid for more than 100 feet before stabilizing himself. The flames retracted, and the mountain pan saber returned to its original plain appearance. The pitch-black blade had no luster at all. The Iron Corps commander who was riding on giant armor, and restrained by him, stared ahead blankly. His mouth moved as if he wanted to say something, but no sound came out. Giant armor shook his body and shook him off. Before the Iron Corps commander could land on the ground, his head had already been separated from his body. A thick stench of corpse blood spurted out. Lan Zi slowly walked over from the side. She looked at Lu Ye's back and then at the Iron Corps commander on the ground with an indescribable look on her face. She knew that Lu Ye's saber strike would be extremely powerful, but she didn't expect it to be this powerful. Such terrifying killing power was something she couldn't hope to achieve. Of course, Lu Ye could also tell that the saber was a magic artifact. Moreover, he seemed to have activated the power of his spirit inscriptions when he attacked with hot text. The saber was a combination of all kinds of power to produce such a powerful strike. The battlefield mark on the back of her hand suddenly warmed up. Lan Zi immersed her divine sense into it and was overjoyed. That was because Lu Ye saw a hand. This was obviously a benefit from killing the Iron Corps commander. This wasn't just a merit from killing the enemy. No matter how strong the Iron Corps commander was, he was only equivalent to a Cloud River Realm Master. The merit from killing him was no different from killing a Cloud River Realm 9th Order cultivator. However, merit wasn't something that could be obtained simply by killing the enemy. By contributing in such a battle, one could also obtain merit. This was probably equivalent to a reward bestowed by the heavens. It was a reward for their efforts. No matter what, the Iron Corps commander was one of the few peak masters of the corpse race. Killing him would be of great significance to the cleansing of the corpse calamity. Just like back in the sealed world of the myriad beasts, when she joined forces with Lu Ye and the others to kill Niu Meng, she had also obtained quite a lot of merit after that battle. This was also why she had sensed Lu Ye's intentions and insisted on following him. Who wouldn't be willing to do something that could benefit them? She had obtained quite a lot of merit, but Lu Ye should have obtained even more. That was because although the three of them had contributed in this battle, the one who had killed the Iron Corps commander was Lu Ye, who had contributed the most. Such a powerful Iron Corps commander had been killed by the three of them in less than 10 breaths. The cultivators of the 9 provinces were all dumbfounded. Only now did they truly feel the huge gap between them. The dozen or so of them were powerless against the Iron Corps commander's attacks, and could only sit and wait for death. However, Lu Yi and the others had eliminated them like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. The first and second place of the Cloud River contest lived up to their names. With the Iron Corps commander killed, the corpses in the surroundings could no longer cause any trouble. With everyone working together, they exterminated all the corpses in their field of vision very quickly. Lu Yi was focused on finding traces of the Golden Corpse King, so he did not linger around. After dealing with the trouble here, he quickly left. The 3 of them wandered around and obtained quite a lot of loot. However, the Golden Corpse King seemed to have evaporated into thin air. There was no trace of him at all. Lu Yi could not help but wonder if he had already escaped from the Sacred Hall of Turbidity. With the current situation, the corpses here could no longer cause any trouble. They would be purged by the enthusiastic cultivators of the 9 provinces sooner or later. Even the corpses scattered across the various corners of the unparalleled continent would become the targets of the cultivators of the 9 provinces in the future. After all, there were not many opportunities to obtain merit so directly and simply. To the cultivators of the 9 provinces, every single one of these horrifyingly shaped and smelly corpses was highly sought after. The Golden Corpse King was not stupid. Now that the situation was hopeless, it was very likely that he would not stay behind. He looked no different from an ordinary corpse clan member. If he wanted to hide among the corpses, probably no one would be able to discover him. He did see the corpse of the Silver Corpse commander. The battlefield where the corpse was located was extremely tragic. Although he did not see it with his own eyes, Lu Yi could still imagine the scene at that time. Many cultivators of the 9 provinces besieged the Silver Corpse commander. The Silver Corpse commander killed in all directions, but in the end, he was still no match for them and fell here. Just from the traces left behind on the battlefield, the 9 provinces had paid a great price to kill the Silver Corpse commander. Follow me, I think I know where the Golden Corpse King is. Just when Lu Yi was about to give up on finding traces of the Golden Corpse King, Lan Zi suddenly spoke. Lu Yi turned to look. Lan Zi said, "We thought too much before. We thought that the Golden Corpse King would hide among the corpses and attack the cultivators of the 9 provinces, or that he had already escaped from here. But in fact he did not leave at all. He did not even attack the cultivators of the 9 provinces." "Where is he?" Lu Yi asked. Lan Zi's gaze moved up and looked at the highest spiritual peak in the distance. Lu Yi frowned. "He is the first corpse clan member of the unparalleled continent, and he is also the Golden Corpse King. He has the pride and dignity of a king. Now that the corpse clan is gone, how can he be a stray dog? There is a great hall over there, and he is in the great hall." As she spoke, Lan Zi waved her fair hand. "I've found out through different channels that many cultivators of the 9 provinces who trespassed have been killed. No one dares to go over there for the time being. If you can't find him yourself, can't you ask someone? Or do you have no friends?" When she said the last sentence, the corners of Lan Zi's mouth curled up. She had a mocking expression on her face, as if someone like Lu Yi should be alone for the rest of his life. Lu Yi raised the Panshan saber in his hand. "Let's go, I'll lead the way." Lan Zi instantly straightened her face and led the way. No one knew the name of Spirit Peak anymore. This place had been occupied by the corpse race for 1,000 years. Everything that belonged to the Turbid Heaven Temple, there was no trace of it at all. However, this should be the highest spiritual peak in the Heavenly Earth Temple, and it was also an extremely important spiritual peak. There was a great hall on the spiritual peak. The entire Heavenly Earth secret realm was filled with the figures of the 9 provinces cultivators, and the corpse clan fighting everywhere. However, only this spiritual peak was empty. There was not a single corpse clan member to be seen. Lu Yi couldn't help but believe Lan Zi's words. This abnormal situation in itself explained a lot of problems. After a while, the 3 figures floated in the wind and landed in front of the great hall of the spiritual peak. Lu Ye's gaze sharpened because he had already sensed the aura that he wanted to remember. The aura of the Golden Corpse King, a corpse demon. In the great hall there was a faint smell of fresh blood. It was the blood of the 9 provinces cultivators who had accidentally trespassed and were killed. The powerful aura was so dense that it was not concealed at all. It was as if an evil dragon was entrenched in it. Even if he knew that it would attract dragon slayers, he did not hide it. He wanted to use an earth-shattering battle to announce his end. This was the dignity of a king. Chapter 835. Sensing the powerful aura in the hall, Lan Zi's expression was solemn. During the battle between the 8 from the 9 provinces, although the Golden Corpse King had only appeared briefly and injured Yang Yuan, no one knew exactly how powerful he was, because the situation was too chaotic back then. Only when she clearly sensed his aura now did Lan Zi know that this guy was more than just a little stronger than the 3 corpse commanders. Was this still within the realm of the Cloud River realm? Even if he was an overlord, it was still a little exaggerated. Moreover, if the Golden Corpse King was really as powerful as she sensed, then when the 8 of them were surrounded by the Corpse Clan, he should have been able to kill them all. He should have the ability to kill them all, so why didn't he do so? Instead, he did not appear again after being repelled by Lu Yi. Perhaps there was some unknown reason behind this? Just as Lan Zi was pondering, Lu Yi had already stepped forward and moved forward. Giant armor followed closely without a word. It looked like even if there was a mountain of blades and a sea of flames ahead, if Lu Yi went, it would follow without hesitation. Lan Zi could only brace herself and follow. The door of the hall opened like the mouth of a ferocious beast, swallowing the 3 figures. The light went from bright to dark. Lu Yi narrowed his eyes slightly and scanned the hall. As far as he could see, there were at least dozens of mutilated corpses scattered around. They were all the 9 provinces cultivators who had come this time. They had mistakenly thought that there was something good here and barged in, but they were killed by the Golden Corpse King. Many of the corpses had their eyes wide open before they died. The remaining light in their eyes was filled with shock. Clearly, they had felt great terror before they died. Right above the hall, the ordinary-looking corpse clan member sat on a chair. He supported his chin with one hand and looked down leisurely. He did not look like he was waiting for the Dragon Slayer, but an old friend he had not seen for a long time. Lu Yi looked up and met the corpse devil's gaze. The eyes that glowed with golden light clearly showed disappointment. The Golden Corpse King's voice that sounded like metal rubbing against metal rang out. "Only the 3 of you? Where are the others?" Although there were many cultivators from the 9 provinces, the only ones that really caught his attention was the initial group of 8 from the 9 provinces. He had been waiting for Lu Yi and the others. However, he did not expect that only 3 of them had come. The other 5 were nowhere to be seen. Naturally, this disappointed him. There was also a nameless fury surging in his chest. A mere 3 people. How dare they come here and cause trouble? 3 people is enough to kill you. The moment Lu Yi finished speaking, Giant Armor took a large step forward. His towering body carried an indescribable sense of oppression as he quickly pounced on the corpse fiend. His movements were not considered fast. At first glance, he even gave people a feeling of stupidity because of his burly body. However, in just 2 or 3 steps, he had already pounced in front of the corpse fiend. Lan Zi was shocked. He didn't expect the battle to be so straightforward. The 2 sides had only exchanged a few words and were about to start fighting. However, her reaction wasn't slow either. At the same time that Giant Armor moved, she charged out from the side. Her tall and slender figure turned into a streak of rainbow light, drifting erratically, instantly giving off an unfathomable feeling. "How dare you?" The Golden Corpse King roared and suddenly stood up. Even he didn't dare to sit upright in the face of the immense pressure from the Giant Armor. The 2 figures close to each other threw a punch at each other almost at the same time. In comparison, Giant Armor's punch was heavy and powerful, while the Golden Corpse King's punch had almost no momentum to speak of. No one doubted that the Golden Corpse King would probably end up with broken tendons and broken bones, or even directly explode from this punch. However, what shocked everyone was that the moment their fists collided, Giant Armor, who was 2 or 3 times bigger than the Golden Corpse King, was sent flying. In a contest of pure strength, Giant Armor, who was a body cultivator, was completely defeated. A circle of air waves visible to the naked eye suddenly surged out and spread out in all directions. At this moment Lan Zi had already charged out from the side. As usual, a fierce storm of saber light enveloped the Golden Corpse King. Clanging sounds rang out. In that instant, who knew how many slashes she had made on the Golden Corpse King? However, what made Lan Zi pale was that her series of slashes only left shallow white marks on the Golden Corpse King's body. She couldn't hurt him at all. Although she was already mentally prepared and guessed that the Golden Corpse King's body was stronger than the Iron Corpse Commander's, it was still a little exaggerated to be this strong. When she attacked the Iron Corpse Commander earlier, she had at least injured him. In comparison, the Golden Corpse King and the Iron Corpse Commander were on two completely different levels. Faced with this storm of slashes, the Golden Corpse King extended his hand and grabbed. Lan Zi's spinning figure couldn't help but stop, because one of her sabers had been caught by the Golden Corpse King. Lan Zi's expression changed. In such a situation, she could either abandon her saber and retreat, or she would be dragged to the Golden Corpse King's side in the next instant. At that time, even if she was the second in Cloud River, she definitely wouldn't have a good ending. Under normal circumstances, abandoning her saber and retreating was the best choice, as well as the only choice. However, she didn't do that at this moment. Instead, she spun in the air because she saw Lu Ye's figure. Giant armor had just been sent flying by the Golden Corpse King's punch, but Lu Yi used the cover of Giant Armor's figure to close in. His saber was sharp and piercing, stabbing towards the Golden Corpse King's eye socket. He saw the strength of the Golden Corpse King's physique, and specifically targeted its weakness. No matter how strong the Golden Corpse King's physique was, its eyes were ultimately fragile. Faced with this saber, the Golden Corpse King suddenly leaned back, causing Lu Ye's saber to stab empty air. He took advantage of the momentum and slashed down heavily on the Golden Corpse King's face, immediately causing sparks to fly. At the same time, the Golden Corpse King, who was leaning back, had already kicked out. Lu Ye's hand formed a palm, and spiritual energy surged in his palm, turning into a defensive spiritual tattoo that was placed horizontally in front of his chest. Although he managed to block this attack, he was still sent flying by the violent force. On the other side, using the short gap created by Lu Yi, Lan Zi's figure spun, and her spiritual energy erupted. This caused the Golden Corpse King's large hand to involuntarily loosen its grip on her saber. Before Lan Zi could retreat, the Golden Corpse King had already taken advantage of the opportunity to smash a fist onto her saber. The violent force almost caused the saber in Lan Zi's hand to fly out. Her expression changed, and she hurriedly retreated to dissipate the force. When she raised her eyes to look at the Golden Corpse King again, her gaze was extremely grave. He was very strong, unimaginably strong. Her previous feeling was not wrong. She joined forces with Lu Yi and Giant Armor to launch a brazen attack. They were unable to do anything to the Golden Corpse King. Instead, they were defeated by him one by one in a flash. It was unbelievable, but she had to believe it. How could she fight this? The moment they clashed, Lan Zi had already thought of retreating. Such a powerful existence was not something that could be dealt with by just 3 to 5 people. If she wanted to deal with him, she could only rely on the sea of people to slowly wear him down. She turned her head to look at Lu Yi. She thought that Lu Yi could understand this point, but unexpectedly, Lu Yi, who had been repelled, pounced forward again with a determined expression without the slightest wavering. Giant Armor also followed closely behind. It strode out, causing the palace to shake violently. Seeing this, Lan Zi gritted her teeth and rushed forward with her sabers. Although they were on opposite sides and she had many conflicts with Lu Yi before, she had no intention of abandoning her companions at such a time. In the main hall, spiritual power surged endlessly in the blink of an eye. 3 figures crisscrossed and rushed forward. They were then sent flying, but they rushed up again and took turns to attack continuously. The aftermath of the violent confrontation caused the ancient hall to fall apart, turning it into a pile of rubble. The Golden Corpse King's corpse devil displayed its absolute strength. Even when facing the 3 of them together, it still had the upper hand. It didn't even leave the radius of 3 feet from its seat. No matter how violent the attacks launched by Lu Yi and the others were, it was easily neutralized. It did not use any treasures. Its physical body was its most powerful treasure. The power that its punches and kicks could release was extremely terrifying. If it were not for the fact that the three of them were strong, they would have died on the spot. Even so, the three of them were in a precarious situation. In less than 30 breaths of time, the three of them were injured. Even Giant Armor, who had the strongest physique, had cracks on its body like porcelain. Blood flowed from those cracks. Lan Zi's aura also began to become chaotic. She wanted to ask Lu Yi to retreat first, but now that things had come to this, she could no longer force it. In any case, they had tested the Golden Corpse King's strength this time. It would not be too late to encircle and annihilate it when they gathered enough people next time. However, before she could say anything, she noticed some strange changes on Lu Ye's body. Lu Ye's momentum seemed to be stronger than before. The speed and power of his saber had also increased significantly. Moreover, this improvement was still continuing to increase. The Golden Corpse King was bewildered. Lan Zi could sense the changes in Lu Yi. The Golden Corpse King, who was facing Lu Yi head-on, could also sense it. Only then did he understand that the human in front of him did not use his full strength at the beginning. Of course, this was not the case. Facing a powerful enemy like the Golden Corpse King, how could Lu Yi dare to hide his strength? It was just that the power he showed at the beginning was his normal level. The improvement at this moment was the help brought about by the blood-stained spirit patterns. Previously, when the 8-man team of 9 regions was facing the encirclement and annihilation of the huge zombie horde, Lu Ye's body was covered in wounds. He deliberately did not take any healing pills, nor did he use his power to heal his wounds. Before the confrontation with the Golden Corpse King, he had already constructed the blood-stained spirit patterns on his body. As the spirit patterns continued to be used, the help it could give him naturally became more and more obvious. The blood-stained spirit patterns could be considered one of his trump cards. However, it was not easy to use this trump card. So far, he had not used it many times. This was because most of the enemies he encountered were the kind that could be dealt with quickly. There was no time for the blood-stained spirit patterns to take effect. However, facing the Golden Corpse King, the blood-stained spirit patterns could play a great role. Therefore, at this moment, under Lan Zi's astonished gaze, Lu Yi took the Golden Corpse King's attack head-on. However, he was not sent flying like before. Instead, his figure only floated back several feet before stabilizing again. There's hope. Lan Zi's eyes lit up. If Lu Ye's strength could continue to improve, the three of them might not be unable to kill the Golden Corpse King. Chapter 836. Thinking of this, Lan Zi no longer hesitated. The two blades in her hands joined together in the middle, and the two blades actually merged into one. Lu Yi had a trump card, but so did she. Her two blades were already extremely long. Even Lu Ye's mountain blade was about 30 to 40% shorter than them. It was difficult for ordinary cultivators to control such spirit weapons. Only someone with a tall figure like Lan Zi could use them freely. At this moment, the two blades merged into one. Although the length did not change, the blade clearly became heavier. She could see that the Golden Corpse King's physique was strong. Ordinary slashes were meaningless, so she prepared to increase the killing power of her spirit weapons. However, in this way she had to sacrifice a certain amount of speed. She took a light breath and her chest rose and fell. The blade light on the blade shone brightly, and her whole person seemed to have merged into the blade light. She brazenly slashed at the Golden Corpse King. The timing of this slash was just right. It was when the giant armor was entangled with the Golden Corpse King, and the opponent had no time to be distracted. With a bang, the Golden Corpse King was actually cut down by this slash. When the long blade fell, Lan Zi's eyes lit up because she had finally injured this powerful enemy. Although the wound was not big, it had indeed caused damage to the Golden Corpse King. This was enough. As long as she could injure the opponent, there would be a chance to kill the opponent. Unlike before, she could not see any hope at all. The giant armor was once again sent flying, and a strong sense of danger shrouded Lan Zi. The injured Golden Corpse King was enraged. It turned to look at her and stretched out a claw, grabbing at her chest. Facing such a fierce attack, Lan Zi did not retreat. Instead, she advanced, As if she was afraid that she would not die quickly enough. She took a step forward, raised the long blade in her hand, and slashed down again. It was not that she was not afraid of death, but she had already caught a glimpse of Lu Ye's movements from the corner of her eye. She believed that Lu Ye would not let her down. Just when the Golden Corpse King's sharp claws were only 3 inches away from her heart, a fiery red blade light swept over. The powerful force forcibly changed the trajectory of the Golden Corpse King's claw, causing the claw to brush past Lan Zi's clothes and tear off a large piece of cloth, revealing the dark golden soft armor she wore. The heavy long sword landed on the Golden Corpse King's shoulder armor. The heavy blow enraged the Golden Corpse King. It raised its hand and swept a palm towards Lan Zi. She didn't dare to be careless and hurriedly retreated. However, her abdomen was still swept by the palm wind and she groaned. Without waiting for the Golden Corpse King to exterminate them, Lu Ye slashed down again. The blood-stained spirit patterns continued to play their role, allowing his aura and even his strength to increase step by step. At first, it was difficult for him to take a blow from the Golden Corpse King, but now he could barely do it. Although he would still be repelled, he was not as miserable as before. In the midst of the fierce battle, Lu Ye opened his mind and spread out his perception. The strength of the Golden Corpse King was a little strange. When the 8-man team of Kyushu was surrounded by the zombie horde, he had fought with the Golden Corpse King for a moment. At that time, although he felt that the Golden Corpse King was strong enough, he was not strong to this extent. If that was not the case, he would not have brought only the giant armor to kill the Golden Corpse King. At that time, if the Golden Corpse King could display such powerful strength, everyone in the 8-man team would have died except for him. Even he did not have absolute confidence in escaping. After all, they were not facing just the Golden Corpse King at that time, there were countless zombie horde. At this point in the fierce battle, Lu Ye had vaguely sensed the problem. There must be something here that could increase the Golden Corpse King's strength by a large margin. Lan Zi said that the Golden Corpse King was waiting here because he was waiting for the end of a king's battle. In fact, that was not the case. It was only here that the Golden Corpse King could unleash strength that exceeded his original level. If he left this place, he would be strong, but not to this extent. What was it? However, even if he pushed his perception to the limit, it was difficult to find out. He could only vaguely feel that there was an invisible force constantly pouring into the Golden Corpse King's body. After a while, the light of hope in Lan Zi's eyes was extinguished again. At this point in the battle, whether it was her, Lu Ye or giant armor, they had all used their full strength, but at most, they could only cause some insignificant injuries to the Golden Corpse King. It was simply a fool's dream to want to kill the Golden Corpse King with such power. Although she was unwilling to admit it, she had to admit that she had thought of things too simply before. Originally, the strength that Lu Ye could display was gradually increasing, making her think that they would definitely win this battle. However, at this point she had already noticed one thing, and that was that there was a limit to Lu Ye's improvement. Compared to the beginning, Lu Ye's strength had indeed improved a lot. The speed and strength of his attacks were not comparable to the beginning. However, even so, he could only barely contend against the Golden Corpse King, and was unable to win. Among the 3 of them, Lu Ye was the main force in killing the enemy. She could not do much, and at most, she could restrain the Golden Corpse King. As for giant armor, he was the one who was beaten the most. However, no matter how hard he was beaten, he could immediately pounce on again and continue to be beaten even more ferociously. However, even Lu Ye, the main force, could only do so much, so how could he kill the Golden Corpse King? Lu Ye, you can't do this. In the midst of the confrontation, Lan Zi gritted her teeth and shouted. Since they were destined to not be able to kill the Golden Corpse King, they should retreat as soon as possible. However, Lu Ye did not seem to hear her. As his figure moved, he continued to exchange blows with the Golden Corpse King. The benefits brought by the blood-stained spirit pattern had already reached its limit. Lan Zi's perception was not wrong. This spirit pattern could no longer bring any greater improvement to Lu Ye. However, he still had another stronger trump card that he could use at any time. Such a long confrontation was enough for him to accumulate power. Hu Pa, who had been crouching on his shoulder silently and fusing with his blood, chi and spirit power, was also ready. However, before he found the reason why the Golden Corpse King was so powerful, he did not dare to use it at will. The benefits brought by the blood-stained spirit pattern were not without a price. His physical strength and spirit power were both being consumed rapidly. If he used another stronger trump card, even if he had the spirit storage ring to replenish his spirit power at any time, the consumed physical strength would not be able to be replenished. At that time he had to kill the Golden Corpse King in the shortest time possible and end the battle, or else there would be great risks. Therefore, he had been looking for the reason why the Golden Corpse King had become so strong. As long as he found it, he would completely erupt and fight to the death. However, now it seemed that it was still too much to ask. Just as Lu Yi was about to listen to Lan Zi's suggestion and retreat first, the Golden Corpse King suddenly spoke. "Mere ants! You dare to be impudent!" After fighting with Lu Yi and the others for so long, the Golden Corpse King had not killed a single person, which made him extremely angry. He was naturally clear about how strong the cultivators of the Peerless Continent were. Before seeing the 8-man team of 9 regions, he had never dared to imagine that there were so many powerful cultivators in this world. He was actually a little absent-minded. Perhaps he had been asleep for too long, and some changes had occurred in the outside world? No matter what the reason was, the battle that he thought he could easily win had been tormented to this point, which made him furious. As soon as he finished speaking, he opened his mouth and roared. Roar! Roar! A roar that was even more shocking than his roar immediately followed. It was Giant Armor, who had just been sent flying by him, that pounced back crazily. At this moment, Giant Armor's entire body was wrapped in a rich blood aura. His spiritual power surged violently, and his originally burly figure inexplicably swelled up, becoming even taller and stronger. His messy hair seemed to have invisible thunderbolts swimming around, each strand standing upright. Even his eyes, which had always been simple and honest, were filled with bloody light. It was like an ancient fierce beast that had broken free and was venting its anger. After blocking the blow of the Golden Corpse King, Lu Yi, who had retreated and was preparing to attack again, was slightly surprised. He had never seen Giant Armor like this. For a moment he did not know what was wrong. After taking a glance, he could not help but frown. This guy was angry? Giant Armor was furious. He was not angry because he was injured, but because as a body cultivator who charged and broke through the enemy lines and acted as the strongest protection for his companions, he was angry because he was sent flying by the enemy again and again. As a body cultivator, his head could be broken, his blood could flow, but his body could not retreat. This was the greatest pride of body cultivators in the 9 regions, and also the most basic persistence. Body cultivators faced the most dangerous enemies directly. If a body cultivator retreated, what would happen to his companions behind him? Although Giant Armor did not come into contact with many people, when he followed Sima Yang to make a living, Sima Yang had taught him this principle more than once. All along, Giant Armor had done the same. When he joined hands with his companions to kill the enemy, his body was the most reliable shield for his companions. Although Sima Yang did not have a good character and had always been attached to Giant Armor like a leech, using him to earn all kinds of cultivation resources, it had to be said that he had played a very good role in teaching Giant Armor on this matter. But now, in the face of a powerful enemy like the Golden Corpse King, he was sent flying again and again. He did not have Lu Ye's fierce means of killing enemies, nor did he have Lan Zi's flexible and vigorous figure. If he could not even display his greatest strength, then what was the point of his persistence and cultivation for so many years? He asked himself honestly and was seething with anger. Taking a big step forward, the palace that had already become ruins suddenly shook. Every step Giant Armor took caused the earth to tremble and the ruins to move. At this moment he did not seem like a person, but a mountain that was carrying an extremely heavy weight. Lu Ye's eyes were filled with extraordinary splendor. He did not know what had happened to Giant Armor, but it seemed like he had comprehended some incredible ability after being angry. He could clearly feel that the spiritual energy in Giant Armor's body was rapidly blending with the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth. This was also the reason why he looked so heavy. It was not that he had really become as heavy as a mountain, but that he had achieved this effect with the help of the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth. This was an extremely mysterious secret technique, just like the divine pillar that he had set up in the Five Elements city in Silver Snake Valley. After it had merged with the ley lines, the cultivators of the 5 great clans could no longer pull out the divine pillar. It was the same principle. It was not that the divine pillar was difficult to move, but if one wanted to pull out the divine pillar, they would have to shake the entire ley lines connected to it. Chapter 837. With the abilities of the cultivators of the 5 great families, how could they do such a thing? The Golden Corpse King was also surprised by the change in the giant armor. He couldn't help but frown. At this moment, the giant armor actually gave him a strong sense of oppression. This made him feel very incredulous. After a few steps, the giant armor was already in front of King Az. Its fist, which was the size of a casserole, fiercely punched towards the Golden Corpse King. Smashed over. The Golden Corpse King also raised his fist to meet it. The moment the 2 fists touched, the giant armor suddenly turned his fist into a palm. Boom! The fist and palm collided, and the power of the collision exploded. A circle of air waves visible to the naked eye surged in all directions. The Golden Corpse King's eyes, which were glowing with golden light, shrunk slightly as a look of disbelief flashed across his face. This was because this time the burly man who had been sent flying by him was not sent flying by him like before. His upper body only leaned back slightly and he was safe and sound. The giant armor's feet seemed to be nailed to the ground, not moving at all. The violent power from the Golden Corpse King spread through his arms to his entire body, causing his bones to emit cracking sounds. The small cracks that were already densely packed on the surface of his body suddenly became even denser, and a large amount of blood spurted out from those cracks. It looked as if his entire body would shatter at any moment. However, Giant Armor's eyes were unprecedentedly clear. An unprecedented viciousness and determination appeared in the depths of his eyes. He bared his white fangs and grinned at the Golden Corpse King who was right in front of him. "I've caught you." The fan-like hand instantly clenched tightly grabbing the Golden Corpse King's fist that had smashed into his palm. Not good. For the first time since the battle started, the Golden Corpse King revealed a look of shock. He didn't expect that he wouldn't be let go of in the slightest. In his eyes, the burly man who could only endure his vicious beating would have such a strange change at such a critical moment. By the time he reacted and wanted to withdraw his hand, it was already too late. Too late. In a competition of strength alone, none of the 3 people present were his opponent. Even if he used the effect of the blood-stained spirit pattern, Lu Yi, who had reached the pinnacle, could not do it, let alone the giant armor. If the giant armor grabbed him like this, the Golden Corpse would be able to break free at will. But after a strange change, he comprehended a mysterious secret. After the technique, the giant armor's restraints also became unbreakable. However, the Golden Corpse King struggled a few times and found that he couldn't break free from the giant armor's grip. He flew into a rage and quickly clenched his other hand into a fist. Like a torrential downpour, they smashed towards Giant Armor's chest. Although the giant armor tried its best to resist, the speed of the 2 was too slow. They weren't even on the same level. There was nothing Ben could do. Furthermore, because he had to clamp down on the Golden Corpse King, he didn't even have the space to dodge. In his anger, he had comprehended a mysterious secret technique. Although he would no longer be sent flying by his enemies, the beatings he received seemed to have become more vicious. Luckily, Lan Zi came out from the side and slashed with her long saber, taking some of the pressure off the giant armor. On the other side, Lu Ye's voice also sounded, "Well done." Previously, he was prepared to listen to Lan Zi's suggestion and retreat temporarily, mainly because he had been unable to find the source of the Golden Corpse King's strength. He did not dare to use his final trump card easily. After all, the Golden Corpse King was not a target and would not just stand there and let him attack it. In fact, the Golden Corpse King's reaction speed was very fast. According to the previous situation, even if he used his last resort, he might not be able to do anything to the Golden Corpse King. He might even put the 3 of them in danger. But at this moment the Golden Corpse King had really become a target. Why would Lu Yi hesitate? At this time, the source of the Golden Corpse King's strength was no longer important. As long as he could get rid of the Golden Corpse King before the giant armor fell, he would win this battle. Roar! With a thought, Hu Pa, who had been crouching on his shoulder, sensed something. He opened his mouth and roared, followed by a bloody light. Lan Zi, who was attacking to restrain the Golden Corpse King's energy, was shocked. She did not know what had happened on Lu Ye's side. She turned her head to look. She saw that the place where Lu Yi was already shrouded in a bloody light. The bloody light was so thick that it was solid like a flowing pool of blood. In the blood, Lu Ye's blurry figure was faintly reflected. However, at this moment, his figure looked a little distorted, a little strange. A terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the ball of blood light. Lan Zi's aura trembled. Previously, when she felt the Golden Corpse King's powerful aura, she felt that it was not in the category of the Cloud River tier. However, at this moment, the aura that erupted from Lu Ye's side was not inferior to the Golden Corpse King's at all. This guy still had a trump card? Just as this thought flashed through her mind, the body of the Dao barbecue outfit must have the eyesight that I don't have. She could see a rough idea. She was slightly busy because Lu Ye's current state was too strange. Lu Ye's entire body surface was covered with a layer of Nan Mei visible to the naked eye. The complete fusion of the P3 river and the Ling power to form the E-Camp's color energy was extremely solid. So much so that it was completely in his present big net of 2mh type 2 things that looked like tiger's ears. Even behind him, there was also a layer of Nan Mei. There was a blood-colored tiger tail that looked like a willow tree. In this instant, Lan Zi sensed that Kong 3S was not a person, but a beast that came out of the eternal abyss. The ancient vicious beast that rushed out was filled with endless ferocious might. Master, I'm here. The clear and childish voice rang out in Lu Ye's heart, almost breaking Lu Ye's heart. Killing intent. Only then did he remember that after the conversation with the E-Camp 1 Cloud Flow, Hu Pa was able to cultivate and communicate with the world in his heart. The last time Hu Pa did this, he was shocked. However, the secret technique of good transformation had been activated by the e-book twice. The last time it was activated was in the hunting ground. For a moment he had forgotten about this matter. Hurry up and save giant armor. The big guy is being beaten up so badly, Hu Pa said. Usually, other than Lu Ten and Yi, only Bao Xing and A was beaten up badly. Hu Pa was very angry. At the same time, the ball was nearly strong enough to stab Sanjia's side. His figure was not even 01. Under the beast form, everything around him seemed to have slowed down. Lu Yi had experienced this feeling before. He knew that it was not the outside world that had slowed down, but his own thoughts and intentions. Lu Ye's fighting style was extremely violent, giving people a huge sense of oppression. Now this feeling was even stronger. It was so strong that even if it was not targeted at him, Lan Zi could not help but hold her breath. Beast form. Lan Zi instantly reacted. She had also experienced the secret realm of the realm of beasts. At that time she had even cooperated with Lu Yi to kill the enemy. The strength of the Black Tortoise sect was still vivid in her mind. How could she be unfamiliar with the strongest secret technique of the realm of beasts that belonged to the beast taming school? Therefore Shi Yanjing could see what was going on with Lu Ye's current state. This was clearly activating the beast secret transformation technique. However, unlike the ordinary transformation of the ox, Lu Yi himself did not show any demonic characteristics. Some of the demonic characteristics only appeared in the form of the fusion of blood energy and spiritual power. This guy hid it so deeply. His senses became faster. This was the result of his sudden increase in strength. The spiritual power and blood energy around his body advanced intensely. Wrapped in an indestructible momentum, this saber stabbed straight at the Golden Corpse King's eye socket. Since the beginning of the battle, even if the giant armor clamped down, the Golden Corpse King, who had only been slightly flustered and did not have the slightest sense of danger, finally felt a great sense of danger in his heart. The three humans in front of him would not be too big for him. If he could not kill them, he naturally would not have too much of a sense of danger. A sense of danger. Until this moment, He could clearly feel that this saber strike could threaten him. Unable to move his body, the Golden Corpse King hurriedly tilted his head, trying to avoid this straight stab. However, Lu Ye's reaction speed at this moment was far faster than normal. The moment the Golden Corpse King tilted his head, the trajectory of the long saber also changed randomly. A spiritual light flashed on the pitch-black blade, and under the blessing of the double-peak sharp spirit pattern, it revealed a fierce killing intent. The Golden Corpse King was shocked. Although Lu Ye's performance was not bad previously, he could not keep up with his reaction speed. This was also the reason why he could always have the upper hand. But at this moment this advantage was gone. It was too late to dodge. The Golden Corpse King could only instantly close the eye that was targeted. The next moment the long saber pierced his eyelid. It was as if gold and iron had collided, making an ear-piercing sound of friction. The Golden Corpse King leaned his head back, dissipating the force of this stab. Rotten blood splattered, and the Golden Corpse King roared. Although the blade didn't directly pierce his head, it almost blinded him. If he hadn't reacted in time, he would have been in deep trouble. Even at this moment, his left eye felt as if it had been ruthlessly gouged by a heavy blow. His eyeball was in extreme pain. Although it was not too damaged, he could not see for a while. In particular, corpse blood flowed out of the pierced eyelid, covering the light in his eyes. He's still not dead? Lan Zi was shocked. Originally, when she saw Lu Ye's terrifying improvement, coupled with the Golden Corpse King being clamped in place by the giant armor, she thought that this battle was already in the bag. But now, it seemed that there was still a bitter fight to be had. Without any hesitation, she charged forward with her saber. Although there was a limit to what she could do in such a situation, if she could restrain the Golden Corpse King a little, then she would play a role. Quickly cut it, master. Use your tyrant saber. Hu Po's voice continued to ring in his mind. It was rare for him to communicate with Lu Yi like this, so the 2 times Lu Yi used the beast transformation secret technique, Hu Po would chatter nonstop like a chatterbox. However, its voice was still that of a child's, so when it said such murderous words, it more or less gave people a strange feeling. Under Hu Po's urging and guidance, Lu Ye's figure was like a graceful swan as she circled around the Golden Corpse King. Streaks of Ling He's blade flashed from different angles, either slashing or stabbing straight ahead. Lan Zi was also supporting and restraining him from the side. The giant armor was completely freed. Originally, he was fixed in place, unmoving like a mountain, and could only become a target, but at this moment, how could the Golden Corpse King be in the mood to pay attention to him? Almost all of his energy was transferred to dealing with Lu Ye's attacks. Chapter 838. Her body was like a rainbow as she moved around. The mountain saber was constantly flashing with light, and the sharp spirit patterns were almost always maintained. Wherever the blade went, there was nothing it could not overcome. Even the Golden Corpse King's powerful physique could not withstand Lu Ye's current killing power. Pieces of flesh and blood were sliced off, and in just 10 breaths of time, Lu Yi had activated the beast transformation secret technique and the Golden Corpse King's flesh and blood had been sliced off, revealing the golden bones in many places. Lan Zi was excited. If the situation continued to develop like this, it would not be long before the Golden Corpse King died. However, just as she was thinking this, the Golden Corpse King suddenly turned around and looked at the huge armor before it. Then it opened its ferocious mouth and as it roared, a mass of dense golden fog gushed out from its mouth. The instant the golden fog left its mouth, it exploded with a loud bang and filled the surroundings. Everyone's figures were swallowed up in an instant. Origin Source Corpse Poison. Lan Zi's expression changed. Some slightly stronger corpse race members could use Origin Source Corpse Poison, so how could the Golden Corpse King, as the strongest corpse race member, not be able to? Yang Yuan had suffered a great loss before. In fact, when she first fought with the Golden Corpse King, Lan Zi had been vigilant about this and tried her best not to be directly injured by the Golden Corpse King. According to her previous experience, Origin Source Corpse Poison required a corpse race member to cause direct damage to a human and inject the poison through the wound for it to be effective. However, looking at the Golden Corpse King's current posture, His origin source corpse poison seemed to have another mystery. Even if it did not cause the most direct damage, once it was sprayed out and wrapped in the poisonous mist, it would corrode. The three people present, whether it was Lan Zi giant armor or Lu Yi, were all injured to some extent. When the golden poisonous mist filled the surroundings, Lan Zi could clearly feel a strange force invading her body through her wounds. Even if she urged her spirit power, she could not stop it. In an instant she felt some unusual changes in her body. The Golden Corpse King did not use origin source corpse poison until now. Obviously, he also sensed that the situation was not good. Doing so must have consumed a lot of his energy. This was indeed the case. After spitting out that mouthful of origin source corpse poison, the Golden Corpse King's aura clearly fell by a bit. Before she could rejoice, Lan Zi hurriedly took out the spirit pill refined by Wuxia and swallowed it, trying to suppress the outbreak of the corpse poison. But she quickly discovered that the effect of the medicinal pill was minuscule. It wasn't that Wuxia's spirit pills were useless, but the Golden Corpse King's corpse poison was too powerful. Although the spirit pill could suppress the origin corpse poison used by ordinary corpse clan members, it could not suppress the corpse poison of the Golden Corpse King. "Quick, kill it!" Lan Zi shouted as her attacks became even more ferocious. In such a situation, they could only end the battle quickly. If they could not get rid of the Golden Corpse King before the corpse poison broke out, the three of them would be turned into corpses. The Golden Corpse King's appearance became even more miserable. Under Lu Ye's continuous attacks, there was almost no place on his body that was unscathed. As the knife light flashed, he was like a piece of pork on a chopping board, constantly having his flesh and blood cut off. Originally, he thought that using the origin corpse poison would make these three humans retreat, giving him a chance to catch his breath. Unexpectedly, not only did it not work, it made his situation even more dangerous. At this moment, his greatest difficulty was that he was restrained on the spot by the giant armor, unable to move. Facing Lu Ye's violent attacks, he did not even have the space to move or dodge. If that was not the case, how could he be so miserable? If this situation continued to develop, he did not know when these three humans in front of him would be turned into corpses, but he was afraid that he would really die here. How could he be willing to accept this? Roar! With a roar, a resolute expression flashed in the Golden Corpse King's eyes. He ignored Lan Zi's entanglement and ignored Lu Ye's killing move. Instead, he raised his palm like a knife and fiercely slashed at the giant armor. Pucci corpse blood splattered, but the giant armor was unscathed. This was because the Golden Corpse King's attack was not aimed at him, but his own arm that was restrained. With the price of severing his own arm, the Golden Corpse King finally broke free from his restraints and regained his freedom. Oh no! When Lan Zi saw this, her heart sank. She hurriedly slashed down, but the Golden Corpse King easily dodged. Freed from his restraints, the Golden Corpse King finally showed his rapid speed. That was a speed that surpassed the Cloud River tier. Even a sword cultivator like Mu Qingyun could not do anything to him in this kind of situation. Just when Lan Zi thought that she was going to be killed, the Golden Corpse King did not care about her, and directly swept out from the side. Behind him, the figure of Lu Yi, who was wrapped in an orange light, could not be shaken off. Only the present Lu Yi could keep up with the Golden Corpse King's speed. The scene suddenly became strange. The Golden Corpse King, who had regained his freedom, fled with his head lowered. Lu Yi chased after him and slashed down with his saber, leaving scars of varying depths on his back. However, he was unable to completely kill him in a short time. Although Lan Zi wanted to help, she could not keep up with the rhythm of Lu Yi and the Golden Corpse King. She had strength, but it was difficult to use it. Added with the fact that she had been poisoned by the origin source corpse poison, she had misgivings, and really did not dare to use spiritual power too violently. Needless to say, giant armor was the best at taking a beating, but he could only watch helplessly when it came to chasing people. At this moment, he was holding the severed arm of the Golden Corpse King, his heart full of confusion. Lan Zi very quickly discovered something strange. Although the Golden Corpse King was fleeing, he did not leave the 1,500 feet range from the original location of the main hall. It was as if there was something important here that he could not part with. If this situation continued to develop, it was really hard to say who would live and who would die. Although the Golden Corpse King was in a difficult situation at this moment, unwilling to confront Lu Yi head-on, he only fled in silence. However, he was obviously stalling for time, waiting for the corpse poison of the three people to erupt. When that time really came, not only would he be able to escape from danger, he would also have 3 more generals under his command. And what Lu Yi wanted to do was obviously to kill the Golden Corpse King before that happened. Lan Zi's figure suddenly swayed. The abnormal changes in her body made her panic, and she no longer dared to use spiritual power recklessly. She opened her mouth and shouted, "Lu Yi, I can't hold on anymore." As she said so, she quickly retreated into the distance. She had no choice but to retreat. If she continued to stay here, she would have to use spiritual power, and that would risk turning into a member of the Corpse Clan at any time. Lan Zi only stopped when she retreated to another nearby spirit peak. She looked up and saw that the pursuit was still intense and anxious. 2 figures intertwined and moved, and saber lights kept surging, accompanied by the Golden Corpse King's roar. Giant armor stupid figure was also shuttling back and forth, but it could not do anything. It could not even stop the Golden Corpse King. Lan Zi was puzzled. Under the premise of being inflicted with the corpse poison of origin, Lu Yi could last longer because of his strong foundation. Why was giant armor able to last longer than her? She did not have time to think too deeply. She hurriedly took out a sound transmission stone and poured spiritual power into it. She put it to her mouth and weakly shouted, "Huasa, help!" The sound transmission stone was naturally given to her by Lu Yi. Everyone in the 9 States team had one, and even the Dao Palace had a lot of them. It was supposed to be convenient for them to communicate, but it had not been used. Lan Zi also did not expect that the first time she used it would be to ask for help. How can you be fine? How can you be fine? The Golden Corpse King, who was being chased by Lu Yi, finally could not stand it anymore. In the beast state, Lu Yi's speed was a little faster than his, so he could not get rid of Lu Yi's pursuit. His strong physique did not give him the sense of security he had in the past, but the embarrassment of a blunt knife cutting his flesh. The Golden Corpse King originally planned to wait for Lu Yi to turn into a member of the Corpse Clan to resolve the crisis, but Lu Yi did not show any signs of transformation at all. Therefore, the Golden Corpse King was very puzzled. He knew how fierce his corpse poison of origin was. The tall woman could not hold on and retreated, and the burly guy did not look like he could hold on for much longer. However, Lu Yi did not seem to be affected by the corpse poison of origin at all. How was this possible? According to the current situation, he was destined to not be able to wait until Lu Yi turned into a member of the Corpse Clan. Although the damage caused by Lu Yi's saber was limited, it could not withstand a long time. At this moment, there was not the slightest bit of flesh on his back, and his whole person was in a half-skeletal state. Although the Corpse Clan was an undead race, they could also die. The large amount of flesh and blood had indeed damaged his vitality, making it more and more inconvenient for him to move. As a result, Lu Yi's killing power was even more effective, and the Golden Corpse King had fallen into a vicious cycle. "You forced me to do this!" The Golden Corpse King roared, his expression becoming ferocious. After cutting off one of his arms, he had been fleeing. At this moment, he finally stopped and reached out with his remaining hand to grab the void below. At this moment, Lu Yi's heart was alarmed. Although he did not know what the Golden Corpse King was going to do, he could guess from his words that he was going to use some kind of incredible means. When his figure quickly swept towards the Golden Corpse King, Lu Yi took a light breath and placed the long saber in his hand horizontally next to his eyebrows, assuming a saber stance. At this moment, the already violent aura became even more overbearing and violent, wrapped in an indescribable sense of oppression and invasion. On the dark blade, a stream of light flashed, and in an instant, a starry sky seemed to appear behind Lu Yi. Crash. Somewhere in the palace ruins, the earth churned, and an object suddenly soared into the sky, leaving a huge hole in the ground. The flying object was caught by the Golden Corpse King. The moment it entered his hand, the Golden Corpse King felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His body became stiff, and even the surface of his withered body suddenly grew fine white fur. causing his entire body to seem as if it was covered in a layer of frost. It looked extremely strange. Lu Ye's eyes narrowed slightly. He could clearly see that what was in the Golden Corpse King's hand at this moment was a broken palm. The broken palm was dry and withered. It should have been cut off by someone with a sharp weapon, and the cut was smooth. Although it was only a broken palm, it gave off an ancient and desolate feeling, as if it was a remnant of ancient times. This was the source of the Golden Corpse King's sudden strength. Lu Yi instantly understood. He had been looking for this source before, but unfortunately, he had not found anything until the Golden Corpse King took the initiative to offer this broken palm. 7017K. Chapter 839. Even though it was only a severed hand, when Lu Yi stared at it, he felt as if he could see through it and see the figure of its master. That was an existence that he could not match at all at this moment. That was an expert that even the Divine Sea Realm cultivators could not compare to. His mind suddenly suffered a huge impact. If it were not for Lu Ye's strong mind, he would have lost his fighting spirit in an instant. He did not dare to be careless anymore. He forced himself to calm down, channeled all the spiritual energy in his body into the long saber in his hand, and stabbed straight. All this time the cultivators of the Wuxia continent had been wondering why a strange race like the Corpse Clan was born in this world. No one knew the reason, but there was always a source. Before the change of the world, there was no such thing as the Corpse Clan on the Wuxia continent. Now the cultivators of the Wuxia continent only knew one thing, and that was that the Corpse Fiends were the original Corpse Clan. He was originally an ordinary disciple of the Heavenly Palace. When he was a human, he did not have any dazzling achievements, and his cultivation was not very high. However, after the change of the world, he became a Corpse Clan member. Then, he spread the corpse disaster from the Heavenly Palace to the Wuxia continent, causing the current difficult situation of the human race. Previously, on the way to Mount Meru with Pang Huanin, Lu Yi, Pang Huanin, and Elder Shao talked about many things, including what caused the Corpse Fiends to turn into Corpse Clansmen. How he did it was impossible to find out. Perhaps only he himself knew. However, at this very moment when Lu Yi saw the severed hand, he suddenly came to a realization. This broken palm was the Golden Corpse King's last trump card. It might also be the source of his transformation into a Corpse Clan member. But even the Golden Corpse King did not dare to use it easily. This broken palm, this thing, was the source of his transformation into a Corpse Clan member, but using this thing would be unimaginable for him. The load, the stiffness of his body and the change of his fine hair were the most obvious signs. This time, if he had not been forced into a desperate situation by Lu Yi, he would not have acted so rashly. Die! The Golden Corpse King roared and channeled all his strength into the broken palm. However, rather than saying that it was channeled, it was better to say that it was devoured. Because in that short instant, his already shriveled body became even thinner and skinnier like firewood. Originally, it wasn't too big, but at this moment, it suddenly expanded in Wei Ye's field of vision, turning into a heavenly object, instantly covering all the light in front of her. It was as if there really was a huge hand in the dark. Following the Golden Corpse King's wave, the palm gently pressed down from the ninth heaven. Lu Yi felt as if he was carrying a huge mountain on his back. All the bones in his body were making cracking sounds. The instant before the Golden Corpse King made his move, the Panshan saber in his hand had already pierced out. The Golden Corpse King's expression froze and he was stunned. Saw the P.Yangda Zik behind Lu Yi. Too, it was getting closer and closer, engulfing the sky and overturning him. What was this starlight? That was clearly a bit of saber light. The first style of Tyrant Blade, Starry Sky. This was the strongest saber skill that Lu Yi could perform at the moment. In addition, he was currently in beast form. Even Lu Yi himself did not know how much damage he could unleash. In an instant, the enemies of life and death were facing each other. The final attack that he unleashed seemed to be the result of mutual destruction. On the nearby spiritual peak, Lan Zi, who saw this scene, couldn't help but raise her heart. She was so nervous that her fingernails were embedded in her flesh, but she didn't realize it. She was not only amazed by the treachery of the Golden Corpse King's final trump card, but she was also amazed by Lu Ye's strength. A mere Yunhe realm cultivator had actually reached the realm of intent. This was a height that many true Lake realm cultivators could not reach. She didn't know what kind of saber Lu Yi was using at this moment, but she could see that this was a real saber technique, not a simple technique. Only a real saber technique could unleash such a sharp saber intent. Just when she thought that Lu Yi was dead for sure, a burly figure suddenly flashed out and blocked in front of Lu Yi. Giant armor. When Lu Yi was chasing after the Golden Corpse King, he was also chasing after him. Unfortunately, it was useless. As a body cultivator, this was not something he was good at. Seeing that Lu Yi was in danger, he immediately flashed over. This was the field he was good at. He raised his head and roared, his spiritual energy and blood chi surging out. His burly body completely shielded Lu Yi behind him, turning into an indestructible barrier that could block out any storm. In this instant, the spiritual power and blood chi that he released quickly squirmed and changed, and then turned into an extremely strange shape, enveloping himself in Lu Yi. In the distance, Lan Zi was in a hurry. That was the Black Tortoise? In her field of vision, her two teammates in the distance seemed to be protected by a Xuanwu sacred beast condensed from qi, blood, and spiritual power. The Golden Corpse King's final attack came as expected. Under the magnificent palm, Giant Armor's expression suddenly became difficult. The power in its body surged even more violently. The Black Tortoise sacred beast, which had always been known for its defense, seemed to be unable to withstand such an attack. Its body suddenly cracked like a broken mirror, and cracks appeared on its body. It was not that the sacred beast was weak, but that Giant Armor's cultivation was too low, and it was difficult to display the full power of this power. In just a breath's time, the sacred beast's figure was almost shattered. If that was the case, not only him but also Lu Yi, who was behind him, would be in trouble. Giant Armor opened its mouth and suddenly spat out a round thing, which seemed to be a monster core. The monster core immediately floated into the heart of the Black Tortoise sacred beast, and spiritual power surged out like a tide. The almost shattered sacred beast phantom miraculously stabilized with the injection of this power. The giant palm was still pressing down, and the sacred beast phantom wrapped around Lu Yi and Giant Armor and smashed into the ruins of the palace below. However, the sacred beast phantom wrapped around them did not collapse. A moment later, the giant palm disappeared. In the ruins, dust flew, and for a moment, it was impossible to see anything. Lan Zi imperceptibly created a breathing technique. Was he dead? Or was he still alive? Just as she was feeling bewildered, a figure staggered up from the ruins covered in blood. It was none other than Lu Yi. Even with Giant Armor sacrificing itself to save him at the critical moment, he still suffered some pressure at the beginning. His injuries were not visible on the surface, but the situation inside was a mess. He was still alive. Lan Zi let out a long breath. However, she quickly reacted. Why was she worried about him? They were not on the same side, and she had been addicted to eating at his hands many times before. If he died, it should be a celebration. In the ruins, Lu Yi raised his eyes and looked forward. The Golden Corpse King had completely turned into a dried corpse at this moment. As a member of the corpse race, his body was shriveled, but at least he still had some flesh and blood, but now he looked like a bag of bones. His golden eyes were like candlelight that was about to be extinguished, and the expression in his eyes was complicated. I can't accept this. The Golden Corpse King opened his mouth, his voice so low that it was almost inaudible. Then he roared at Lu Yi. Why? He had even used the trump card he was most unwilling to use, only hoping to die together with Lu Yi, but he did not expect that the other party would not die. This was unbelievable, and it made it difficult for him to accept. The weapon box at Lu Ye's waist buzzed, and a stream of light shot out, nailing the Golden Corpse King's forehead. There was not much damage, but with the explosion of the Imperial equipment, the Golden Corpse King's head instantly rolled off. Under the first move of the Tyrant Blade, his head had already been separated. It could be said that he was already dead the moment Lu Yi used the Starry Sky. However, the stubbornness in his heart forced him to hold on. Gurgle gurgle. His head rolled to the side and his eyes were wide open. He died with grievances, and his headless body fell straight to the ground. I have someone, but you have nothing. In the ruins, Lu Yi spoke. Lan Zi, who heard this from afar, almost laughed out loud. The other party was already dead, so what was there to say? However, she did not know that this had always been Lu Ye's habit. When fighting with a strong enemy, he would not say anything. If he had anything to say, it would not be too late to kill the enemy first. The source of the chaos in the unparalleled continent had been eradicated, but the strange broken palm had been left behind. The Golden Corpse King had used the broken palm to activate an extremely powerful killing move, but at this moment, the broken palm did not seem to have any changes. Lu Yi glanced at it vigilantly and did not go forward to investigate. He had seen the last change in the Golden Corpse King. This thing did not seem to be anything good. He had to think carefully about how to deal with it. He turned his head to look at his side. The giant armor was still in the abandoned city, and it was in the shape of a lake. There were fine cracks on the surface of his skin. Although the secret technique he used at the end was tyrannical, it was not without a price. Not to mention the huge consumption of the power of his demon core. His injuries were even worse than Lu Ye's. It was serious, but his body was strong and his life was in danger. Sensing Lu F's Yuan grin, he was instantly delighted. In the year of Shernan, there were two powerful DU battles. Dong Yuan had chosen to fight in the Spirit Stream Battle Protector. This allowed him to go out of the U5 and follow Lu Yi everywhere to fight. However, ever since he passed through the 115-2, one-like machine realm and arrived at the Cloud River battlefield first, such an opportunity would be very rare. The giant armor missed those days very much. However, he also remembered Feng Yu's teachings in the spiritual land. Lu Ye's footsteps were too fast, so he had to work hard to cultivate. Only then would he have more opportunities to fight with Lu Yi. Lan Zi floated back in a flash and looked at the giant armor. Then she looked at Lu Yi and said, I've already sent a message to Ji Huazi. She'll be here soon. Lu Yi nodded and came to the giant armor's side. He found a piece of gravel and sat down, looking like an old hen protecting an injured chick. Lan Zi could not help but roll her eyes. There was a broken palm at the side and said, What should we do with this thing? Deal with it? Lu Yi was checking his battlefield imprint here. The amount of battle merits obtained from killing the Golden Corpse King was beyond imagination. Chapter 840. Previously, when the three of them killed the Iron Corpse commander, Lu Yi received more than 10,000 battle merits, which was barely enough to exchange for a golden spirit lot. According to the harvest from killing the Iron Corpse commander, the battle merits from killing the Golden Corpse King should only be in the tens of thousands. However, that was not the case. The harvest from killing the Golden Corpse King was much more than expected. This should be related to the fact that the Golden Corpse King was the source of the zombie disaster on the Wuxia continent. Killing the Golden Corpse King was equivalent to clearing away the biggest obstacle of the zombie disaster, and the following matters would be simple. Cultivators from the 9 prefectures rushed over like wolves and tigers. It would not be long before all the zombies on the Wuxia continent were wiped out. The long-cherished wish of the Ziwei Palace for 1,000 years could finally be fulfilled. Hearing Lan Zi's question, Lu Yi did not even raise his head. Take it if you want. Lan Zi decisively refused. No need. With her eyesight, she could naturally see that this broken palm was extraordinary. However, although it was good, she still needed the ability to hold it. The Golden Corpse King's final miserable state was still vivid in her mind. How could she not know that this thing was not something she could control now? The battle here was very intense, and it had already attracted many cultivators from the 9 prefectures nearby to investigate. However, before the dust settled, no one dared to approach, mainly because the aftermath of the battle was too terrifying. Now that the battle had ended, many people showed up, but they only watched from afar and did not casually approach. Lu Yi continued to check his battlefield imprint. There were a few messages left in the imprint. Lu Yi continued to check his battlefield imprint. There were a few messages left in the imprint. After a brief check, he found that it was a message from his 4th senior brother. After some communication, Lu Yi discovered that Li Baxian and Feng Yu had also come to the Wushuang continent. It was not strange when he thought about it. There was a Tianji pillar in the spiritual land of the Return to Heaven Valley. Since there was a Tianji pillar, it was naturally connected to the Wushuang continent. This time on the Cloud River battlefield, almost all the places where the Tianji pillars stood were connected to the Wushuang continent. It was convenient for the 9 prefectures' cultivators to enter here and kill the zombies. However, Li Baxian now only knew that he was near the Ziwei Palace. As for his specific location, it was difficult to say. After all, he knew nothing about the Wushuang continent and suddenly came to this world. Moreover, it was a good time to kill zombies to obtain battle merits, so he did not have the time to inquire too much information. Fourth senior brother was at the Ziwei Palace? Lu Yi couldn't help but feel a little strange. However, he quickly thought of something and felt relieved. While he was communicating with Li Baxian, a sword chime came from afar like thunder. It rapidly approached and arrived in front of him in the blink of an eye. The sword light receded, revealing 2 figures. One was Mu Qingyun and the other was Hua Xiai. After receiving Lan Zi's call for help, Hua Xiai immediately rushed over. However, it was inconvenient for her to travel alone as a medical cultivator, so Mu Qingyun took the initiative to escort her. As a sword cultivator, his speed was undoubtedly very fast, so he arrived just in time to bring Hua Xiai here. "Why are you injured so badly again?" Looking at the disheveled Lu Yi, Hua Xiai hurriedly stepped forward to check his injuries. "Let's take a look at giant armor first." "I'm fine." Lu Yi pointed at giant armor lying next to him. Hua Xiai nodded and went to giant armor's side. After examining him, she urged her spiritual energy to heal him. "You guys killed King Jinhu?" Mu Qingyun looked at the remains of the battlefield and the dismembered corpse. Out of his body, he realized in hindsight. Although he did not personally participate, he could tell from the injuries of the 3 of them and the traces left behind on the battlefield. This was a bitter battle. For a moment, he could not help but feel rather vexed. It was quite a pity that he could not participate in such a grand event. However, he had been poisoned by origin corpse poison earlier and urgently needed Hua Xiai to cure him, so there was nothing he could do about it. He could only say that he was unlucky. While they were busy here, many corpses fled inside and outside the secret realm of the Heavenly Sacred Hall. The cultivators of the 9 provinces and the Dao Palace occupied this place, and the cultivators pursued them relentlessly. The Heavenly Sacred Hall was the corpse race's greatest foundation on the unparalleled continent. The Golden Corpse King slumbered here all year round, and the 3 corpse commanders did not leave either. Left and right. Now that the Golden Corpse King had been slain and the 3 corpse commanders had been eliminated one after another, there were still some ordinary corpses left. The strong could no longer do anything. It was only a matter of time before they were all wiped out. On the battlefield where the Holy Ji Palace was located, the only remaining soaring dragon boat hovered in midair. Pang Huanin, who was in a weakened state, was in the middle of the battlefield. Pang Huan, who was weak, silently recovered as she stood on the side of the boat and gazed at the battlefield below. Her eyes were dazzled as she sighed in amazement. In the previous battle, she had basically fought to the point of exhaustion. The number of corpses she killed was more than the total number of corpses she had killed in the past. A lot. The cultivators of the 9 provinces seemed to be able to use their battle merits to exchange for all kinds of cultivation resources. In short, the corpse race is a rare prey for them. Elder Xiao vaguely understood. "I see." Looking at the entire Wushuang continent, the Turbid Heaven Temple was undoubtedly the most lively place at this moment. This was the foundation of the corpse race. The corpse race was huge in number, and the 9 provinces Tianji had opened the most portals here. The number of cultivators sent here was also the largest. Naturally, the battle between the 2 sides was in full swing. However, the other 3 secret realms of the human race were not lonely either. The 4 Tianji pillars set up by Lu Yi all swallowed the power of the earth veins of the secret realms to grow. The result of this was that the earth veins were exhausted, and the 3 secret realms of the human race were completely exposed. They could no longer drift in the void and not appear in front of people like before. When the portals opened, the cultivators of the Silver Snake Valley and Mount Meru were incomparably flustered. This was because such a thing had never happened in the past 1,000 years. The drifting void of the secret realms was the foundation of their stable survival all these years. Now that the secret realms were exposed and the portals were open, they no longer had the support they had in the past. The panic caused by this could be imagined. The movement of the portals was very obvious, and it quickly attracted the nearby corpse race. With no other choice, the cultivators of the Silver Snake Valley and Mount Meru could only brace themselves to face the enemy. Just as Lu Yi had thought, the time had come. No matter how unwilling these two sects were, they had no choice but to take the initiative to join the battle against the corpse race. As for the Ziwei Daoist Palace, the situation was even worse. At least the foundation of the Silver Snake Valley and Mount Meru was still there. In the face of continuous attacks from the corpse race from all directions, the cultivators only needed to guard the portals. They still had a relatively strong defensive ability. However, the same could not be said for the Ziwei Daoist Palace. Previously, Pang Huanin had almost taken away all the forces of the Ziwei Daoist Palace that could fight, leaving behind some old, weak, sick, and disabled people who did not have much combat ability, and even ordinary people who had never cultivated before. In the face of such a disaster, how could the Ziwei Daoist Palace withstand it? Once the corpse race rushed in, everyone guarding the Ziwei Daoist Palace would die. At this critical moment, portals with flowing light suddenly opened near the Ziwei Daoist Palace's secret realm. The number of portals was naturally not as many as the one in the Ziwei Daoist Palace, but the number of cultivators who walked out of those portals was not small either. The moment every cultivator set foot in this place, a piece of information exploded in the depths of their hearts, allowing them to gain enlightenment. Protect the Ziwei Daoist Palace. Li Baxian and Feng Yu were among this group of people, which was why he could mention the name of the Ziwei Daoist Palace to Lu Yi. This was the only information he knew about this world. The reason why he wanted to contact Lu Yi was naturally not because he already knew that Lu Yi was in the Wushuang continent, but because he thought that Lu Yi would most likely participate in such a grand event no matter where he was. However, he didn't expect that this grand event was actually led by Lu Yi and the other 9 people. Inside the Ziwei Daoist Palace's secret realm, Huaxia healed Zhu Jia and Lu Ye's injuries, then cured Lan Zi's origin corpse poison. Only then was she done. She did not stay for too long and quickly left again under the protection of Mu Qingyun. There was no other reason. As the only medical cultivator who could cure the origin corpse poison, her existence had been completely spread by the cultivators of the 9 states in a short period of time. There were always mistakes in the battle. Many cultivators who were poisoned by the origin corpse poison would run to the Ziwei Daoist Palace's dragon boat to find her to cure the poison. Of course, for Huaxia, this was a good thing. Chapter 841. Detoxifying others was also a form of cultivation, and she could even gain a certain amount of battle merits. Huaxia was the only one among the 9 states cultivators who had such a good thing. It had only been a day since the 9 states cultivators arrived at the unparalleled continent, and the Corpse Clan's foundation in the Heavenly Palace was destroyed. 70% of the Corpse Clan was killed, and the remaining 30% fled. The 9 states cultivators chased after them. The flames of war instantly ignited the entire unparalleled continent. Under the raging flames, the unparalleled continent was not far from being reborn. The clamor in the Heavenly Palace was gone. Only Lu Yi in giant armor stayed behind in the ruins of the palace. Lan Zi had already left. She and Lu Yi were not on the same side, and they worked together because they were forced to. Now that the dust had settled, there was no need for them to stay. Lu Yi and giant armor stayed behind to heal their injuries. The battle with the Golden Corpse King had left them with heavy injuries. Even with Huaxi's treatment and their strong physiques, it would take a day or 2 for them to fully recover. The second reason was to guard the broken palm. It was strange and might be the source of the zombie disaster. In order to prevent some ignorant 9 states cultivators from having designs on it, Lu Yi had been guarding it. However, he did not know how to deal with it. After thinking about it, bringing it back to the 9 states and having the sect master seal it was probably the best way. Only the spirit ocean realm cultivators had the right to seal it. A familiar aura quickly approached from afar. Lu Yi, who was recuperating, looked up and saw a flower basket-like flying spirit artifact flying steadily toward him. As she approached, Wuxia jumped down from flower basket number 2 and put away her air transportation spirit artifact. "How are your injuries?" As she spoke, she came forward to check. After a busy day and night, she finally had some free time. However, she was not tired at all. Instead, she was in high spirits. After checking, Lu Yi checked giant armor and nodded slightly. "Young man, you're strong. There's nothing wrong with you. Rest for a few more days." It was an old woman's kiss. This woman was used to being a demon, and Lu Yi was already used to it. She spoke again. "Palace Master Pang asked me to pass you a message. There's a problem at the Ziwei Palace," and she went ahead first. "She asked you to go to the palace after you're done here. She wants to thank you personally." "Got it." Lu Yi nodded. It just so happened that he was also on his way to the Holy Ji Palace. Fourth senior brother and maid Feng Yu were there, so he had to meet up with them. Wuxia then looked at Lu Yi with a mischievous smile. "Such a great favor, I'm afraid she'll have to repay it with her body. No wonder I saw your red Luan stars move today. You're going to have a happy occasion. I'll congratulate you first." As he spoke, he walked to the side. Lu Yi initially wanted to ignore her, but she suddenly realized that something was wrong. She quickly raised her hand. "Wait." Before she could finish, she stared blankly at Wuxia, who was picking up the severed palm from the ground. Hearing Lu Ye's voice, she tilted her head with a puzzled expression. "What's wrong?" "No." Lu Yi frowned. "You don't have any bad feelings?" "What bad feeling?" Wuxia was even more confused. Lu Yi looked at the broken palm in her hand. "This thing should be the source of the zombie plague in this world. What are you trying to do with it?" "Refine it." Wuxia had a matter-of-fact look on her face. "I already felt it when I came over yesterday. This thing is very nutritious." As she spoke, she licked her red lips with her little scarlet tongue. She looked like she was raring to go. This look was both evil and somewhat charming. Lu Yi felt a chill run down her spine for no reason, and her expression changed. Wuxia immediately smiled beautifully. "Don't worry, it's not what you think. This thing contains a strange poison. Ordinary people might not be able to touch it, but it's very useful to me." Lu Yi was still worried. "Be careful, this thing is very strange." A severed palm had caused this broken, unparalleled continent to be filled with the flames of war for 1,000 years, causing the human race to have no place to stand. It was hard to imagine what kind of cultivation base its owner had. "I know," Wuxia replied, and casually put it into her storage bag. Since the severed palm was taken away by Wuxia, there was naturally no need for Lu Yi to continue staying behind. The battle at the Heavenly Palace could be considered settled, and there was no trace of the corpse race anymore. The three of them immediately set off and left the Heavenly Palace. Along the way, they could see the figures of 9 provinces' cultivators flying back and forth from time to time, or they could see the scene of the corpse race being hunted down. For 1,000 years, this broken world had always been the corpse race's world. Even the humans from the 3 great secret realms had to be careful when they walked outside, not to mention the humans in the various strongholds. Many ordinary people had never left their strongholds from birth to death, and were trapped in a dark environment for their entire lives. Even if cultivators went out to search for resources, they had to bear a huge risk. They might encounter the corpse race and never return. After so many years, the number of humans on the unparalleled continent had sharply decreased. Compared to 1,000 years ago, it was probably less than 1/10,000th. Until today, under the pursuit of the cultivators of the 9 regions, the Corpse clan, who had been tyrannical in this realm for thousands of years, fled in panic like a stray dog. Chapter 842. After all, The number of corpses attracted by the Ziwei Taoist palace was not as many as that of the heavenly temple. Therefore, even if there were not many cultivators from the 9 provinces here, they could still deal with them easily. Lu Yi looked around but couldn't find Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan. He sent a message out to inquire and learned that the two had left the vicinity of the Dao Palace. They had formed a small group to hunt corpses. He told his 4th senior brother that he and Huazi had returned to the Ziwei Taoist palace before ending the message. Hunting corpses was the current situation for the cultivators of the 9 provinces. There were not many opportunities to gain merit so easily, so the cultivators would naturally cherish it. If Lu Yi did not need to recuperate, he would not miss this opportunity. However, he had not recovered from his injuries yet. On the other hand, he had gained enough benefits, so there was no need to compete for those small benefits. Moreover, there were many cultivators from the 9 provinces this time. Even if he went hunting, he might not gain much. It was better to recuperate. As soon as he returned to the small courtyard where everyone lived, Peng Huanin had already heard the news. "How are your injuries?" she asked with concern. Since the beginning of this operation, the cultivators of the Taoist palace led by her had split up with Lu Yi and the others, so they had not had a chance to meet. Originally, after the situation stabilized, she wanted to personally check on Lu Ye's injuries. However, she received news that something had happened in the Ziwei Taoist palace, so she immediately led her people back. "It's not a big deal. Huazi has already treated me. I'll be fine after a few days of rest," Lu Yi replied. Peng Huanin was relieved. "That's good." His expression turned serious again as he took 2 steps back and bowed to Lu Yi. Thanks to senior marshal brother, Wu Shuang was able to escape this calamity. In this generation of Ziwei Taoist palace, Huan Yin has no human race. Thank you, senior marshal brother and fellow Taoists. Palace Lord, you don't have to thank us. We also gained something. From the standpoint of Lu Yi and the others, this trip to the Wushuang continent was only because they were guided by Heaven's secret. This could be considered as a tempering. In this tempering, everyone had gained enough benefits. As for helping the Wushuang continent to eradicate the corpse disaster, it was just a tempering process. Peng Huanin shook her head. "That's true, but if it weren't for all of you, the Wushuang tribe would never have been able to make a name for themselves. The Wushuang tribe will always remember your kindness, and the Ziwei Taoist palace will never forget it." Lu Yi declined to comment. "In that case, senior marshal brother, please recuperate first. Once you've recovered, I'll host a banquet to entertain all of you." If things went wrong, there could be extremely tragic casualties. There had never been a secret realm where so many cultivators from the 9 regions gathered, and there had never been a time where so many Cloud River tier cultivators were involved. When Peng Huanin led people to investigate, she immediately understood that the situation in front of her was no longer something she could handle. Not to mention that she wasn't a cultivator from the 9 regions. Even if she wasn't qualified to handle such a matter. "Quickly go and invite senior brother Lu," Peng Huanin immediately said to the person beside her. The cultivator couldn't help but be stunned. "Which senior brother Lu? I've never heard of you having a senior brother." "Luya." Peng Huanin's face turned slightly red. The cultivator came to his senses and turned around to return to the secret realm. At this time on the spirit peak, Luya opened his eyes with a melancholic expression. In the past few days, he had made some gains in the imprinting origin, but it seemed that he didn't imprint the saber cultivators that Muhua had been longing for. Instead, he imprinted several cultivators from other factions. The noise from the outside world didn't affect this place, because there were always cultivators from the Dao Palace guarding the spirit peak. Peng Huanin had already turned this place into a forbidden area. Any cultivator from the 9 regions who approached this place would be told that this was the place where Lu Ye and Huaxi cultivated. Lu Ye alone was enough of a deterrent, not to mention Huaxi. If there was anyone who had benefited the most from this trip to the Peerless Continent, it would undoubtedly be Lu Ye, because the battle merits he obtained were incomparable to anyone else. However, if there was anyone who had won a huge reputation, it would be Huaxi. As the only medical cultivator on the battlefield who could cure the origin corpse poison, countless cultivators of the 9 regions had been indebted to her. Almost all the cultivators of the 9 regions had heard of Wuxia's name through word of mouth. Of these 2 people, one had killed countless people and was extremely vicious, while the other had healed the wounded and healed the dying. Who would dare to disturb this place where they cultivated? However, the fact that the 2 of them lived in the same spirit peak made people curious. Perhaps Wuxia was also poisoned by the origin corpse poison. So he held the kind-hearted Wuxia hostage to heal him? The scene of the gentle and jade-like woman falling into the hands of a vicious person like Wuxia was simply unimaginable. It was like a fierce tiger sniffing a rose. Countless cultivators from the myriad demons' ridge felt like their hearts were being stabbed by a knife. The cultivator sent by Peng Huanin hurried to this place. Wuxia came out to receive him. After hearing about the situation outside, she couldn't help but frown. Wuxia should still be healing. She hadn't seen Wuxia in the past few days since she returned, so she didn't know how Wuxia's injuries were recovering. She didn't dare to rashly disturb him. What should we do? The cultivator was very anxious. From the standpoint of the Ziwei Dao Palace, these cultivators of the 9 regions were the benefactors of the peerless continent. They didn't want any conflicts between the 2 sides because of past grievances. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.